Please.
If the continuous alarm sounds, you must evacuate the building and proceed to the assembly point. From this room, you follow the green running person signs to the exit, using either the marble staircase at the end of the building nearest to Bath Abbey or the main staircase. Please do not use the lifts. The assembly point for this building is in Orange Grove on the green outside Browns. There is an evacuation chair for use by disabled people who so wish in the corridor outside the Council Chamber Public Gallery. Alternatively, the area at the top of the marble staircase has been designated as a safe refuge where persons needing assistance should assemble. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any apologies for absence?
The audio loop doesn't appear to be working, telecall loop. Could the technicians please check it is turned on? Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Yes, I can hear it loud and clear now. Okay, Joe, any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, I've received apologies from councillors Sarah Evans, Alan Hale, Steve Hedges, Matt McCabe, Michelle O'Doherty, Bharat Pankania, June Player, George Tomlin and Chris Warren.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Any declarations of interest from the floor? Okay, thank you. I'd like confirmation that the minutes are a correct record. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Guy, and a seconder, Councillor Jackson. And we'll take a show of hands for this rather than voting electronically. So all those in favour? Okay. We now come to agenda item 5, which are announcements from the Chair. And I'd like you to stand for a minute's silence following the death of former Councillor and Honorary Alderman Brian Chalker and former Councillor Mike Kelleher. If you could all stand for 1 minute. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to make the usual announcements. Can I ask you all to switch off or to silence your mobile phones devices? To remind you, you need to log into a microphone to be able to speak and vote, and turn it off when you finish speaking. The meeting is being webcast, so if you don't want to appear on YouTube, do make sure that you make the camera operators aware. Now, today is the last appearance of Will Godfrey, our CEO, at a Baines Council meeting. He obviously doesn't go until December, but this is his last appearance with us here at the Council. I would like to thank him for his 5 years of service as a CEO to Baines, and to wish him all the best in his future plans. Now, he's been very coy about these future plans. I believe there's something to do with football, and I believe there's something to do with the derby, and we're not talking about derbies in the UK, but we're talking about derbies around the world. Now, I may have got the wrong end of the stick, so I will let Will speak for himself in a moment. But on your behalf, and as Chair, I'd like to wish him all the best in his future plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you don't mind if I just want to say a few things, if that's possible, because I think in the 6 years I've been here, I haven't said a great deal in the Chamber, but I would like to just make some comments if I can. I'm not a great one for goodbyes, and I'm not a great one for long goodbyes, but there are a few people I just want to talk about and thank, really. So, first and foremost, it's been an absolute honour and privilege to have served as Lord Chief Exec for the last 6 years. I came in October 2019, full of enthusiasm and sort of, think we're going to do some great stuff, and which we have done. And then, obviously, 6 months later, COVID came along, and it slightly put back some of the things we were going to do. But again, it was an amazing experience to add to the experiences that I've had. So, first and foremost, thank you for putting up with me for 6 years. I've been in local government for 40 years, just about, and I've been Chief Exec in 3 different places for nearly 20 years, so I think I probably deserve a bit of a break, really, after that period of time. Local government's an amazing place to work, right? And I want people to always remember that. Our mission of improving people's lives has always been at the core of what I do, and has always been really, really important to me, because that's what I believe government is and does, and that's what I've tried to do every day that I've worked in and around local government, and certainly all the time that I've been Chief Exec. Just got a few messages to people, really. So first of all, I just want to talk to the communities of Bath, North East Somerset. You've got an amazing council. This council delivers some incredible outcomes for our communities, and people work really hard to deliver those outcomes. Your councillors work really hard to represent your views, and please support them as your representatives. To you as councillors, you do an incredibly challenging job, but please stay positive with the challenges ahead. I'm sure at times it feels like all we're doing is sort of walking through mud and treacle, but believe me, the contribution you make and the difference you make to people's lives is incredible, so thank you for that. Secondly, I just want to say that your staff are incredible. They're amazing people. They work really hard, so please support, trust and nurture them to make sure you get the best out of them to continue to deliver what I think we've been doing over a period of time. And finally, to my colleagues, I just want to say thank you. All that we've achieved over the last 6 years is down to my colleagues. Please take care of yourselves, and please celebrate the achievements that you've had and continue to have over the next few years. I'm sure the Council will continue to go from strength to strength, and I'll continue to have a keen interest as a resident, holding my councillors to account. I'm not a great one to focus on sort of legacy, but I just want to say this. My focus has always been on the people within and outside the organisation, and I do sincerely and genuinely believe the organisation the organisation and the place is in a better place now than it was when I arrived in 2019. And finally, I just want to say best wishes to my successor. I'm sure she'll be amazing as they step into an incredible job. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. That was much appreciated. Agenda item 6, any urgent business agreed? There's none. So we now go on to our public speakers. I have 9 public speakers registered, and I'd like to remind them that you have 3 minutes to speak and that the statements that you make will be referred to the relevant Cabinet member. First person I have is Robin Kerr.
Right. Good evening, councillors. I currently chair the Bath Alliance for Transport and Public Realm, which comprises 21 Bath stakeholder organisations with shared interests in excellent transport and public realm. We aim to support Baines Council's transport effort in Bath and urge the Council to develop and deliver a comprehensive long-term transport plan. Firstly, we think the movement strategy is very good. We support the three well-balanced goals of the strategy. We strongly support the proposal that through traffic should use the strategic road network and main road network, that is the A46, A4 London Road and A36, not the historic centre. We also strongly support the aim of reducing traffic in Queen Square and recovering it as a high-quality public space. The heart of the World Heritage Site is not the place for heavy traffic. It's important to get the strategy right, but that's just the beginning. The challenge will be to implement that strategy, and that will require determination and detailed planning. The levers of the strategy cover almost all key issues. It is good that these include broad timescales for implementing the various strands. We propose 3 quick wins. Firstly, declassify the A4 through the city centre. All roads below the level of strategic and major road networks are under Baines control. In particular, this includes the A4 through the centre, and it would be entirely consistent with the strategy to declassify it. By itself, this would have a limited impact, although it might discourage sat-navs, but it would send a strong signal of your intent to create great quality places. Secondly, parking control is a powerful demand management tool which is also under Baines control. Reducing meter parking in the city centre to encourage drivers to use alternatives such as park and ride would be a quick win for the strategy. The strategy calls for reduced levels of freight traffic using unsuitable streets. So a third quick win would be to get Avon and Somerset Police to enforce the HGV limit through the centre, or for Baines to seek additional enforcement powers to do so. One major omission is any reference to a park and ride to the east of Bath. This is essential if traffic coming from the east is to be reduced. We hope you will reconsider this. With that proviso, the strategy has the full support of the Alliance. Incidentally, today's Chronicle has a passionate letter calling for an eastern park and ride, which is entirely by coincidence, and I did not draft it. Lastly,
Robin, could you bring your statement?
Lastly, the local plan and the movement strategy should be aligned. The current local plan refers to a city centre that is free of all but essential traffic. This text should be retained in the new plan rather than the feeble wording in the current draft. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Could you stay, please? Thanks. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Thank you very much indeed. I'd next like to call Ian Saunders.
Good evening, councillors. I'm a Keynsham resident, invited here to talk about challenges on new housing developments. Although there are evidently many challenges, I'll focus on one in particular that the council are uniquely placed to address and will face significant financial risks if not addressed. The challenge is that of what is effectively public, but legally private, infrastructure and amenities on developments that development residents fund through exorbitant service charges, effectively privately maintaining assets for public benefit. These assets would otherwise be paid for by the council. For clarity, these primarily include areas such as play areas, green open spaces, drainage systems, etc. These residents are considered to effectively be paying twice through council tax and service charges. Councils generally, and particularly here, actively seek to minimise their adoption of these assets, whilst developers seek to avoid the costs of delivering to what they refer to as adoptable standards. The Competition and Market Authority have explored solutions such as council tax discounts or mandating that councils adopt these assets. Government have endorsed and are taking forward through consultation a number of the CMA recommendations. The two most significant are defining common adoptable standards and mandatory council adoption of all such assets. Councils being forced to adopt assets below adoptable standards transferred increased capital and operational financial liabilities and risks from development residents to the council. If the council act now to push adoptable standards and council adoption, they can significantly reduce these liabilities and risks and create benefits for residents. This minimised adoption, maximised service charge model is the tip of the iceberg challenges affecting the delivery and management of new housing developments within Baines. I invite the Council to consider actions in Baines, including mitigating the aforementioned risks in the spirit of the recommendations through any pending or future Section 38 agreements, and commissioning a lessons learned review of new housing development delivery in the context of the government recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Are there any factual questions from councillors? Councillor Ross?
Yes, thank you for your statements. As I know you're a resident of an estate with these issues, do you think your experience is typical of unadopted estates across Keynsham?
Yes, it is. We are in contact with a number of estates, both within Keynsham and across Bath and North East Somerset. Indeed, the Federation of Bath Residents Associations have referred other new housing developments to our development for support because we've actually made a bit more progress than many others.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'd now like to call David Redgeville. David, we've got a roving microphone for you, which will enable you to ask them to make a statement.
Thank you, Chair. So, David Redgeville, Swiss Transport, but also the pasture representative from the Western and Mayoral Combined Authority and North Somerset Council Bus Service Improvement Plan panel. So what I want to talk about tonight is a few issues around public transport. I agree with what Robin has said about reducing the car in the city centre. As a World Heritage Site, we should be reducing the car. In order to do that, we need to offer good public transport. The first thing I've written to Sarah about and Kevin is actually the bus station. It's not in the ownership of this authority, the land is, it's in the ownership of Southgate. That's how I first met Will, and we've been battling with them. It's still going on. We need to come up with a master plan for that bus station. The land is very fragmented. Some of it first have a lease on, they don't manage. That's the bit inside the passenger interchange. The land around it, the pavements that never get cleaned, are Baines or Southgate. Some mornings they clean them, some mornings they don't. If you go over the bridge to Widcombe, some mornings that's clean, some mornings it's not. And the bus station box is not first is to clean, that's the bid. So how you manage that as a transport interchange for the city is of great concern. We're working with WECA and Phil Wright at WECA. We've been trying to get a master plan together. So I'd urge Kevin, as Deputy Mayor, see if we can get a master plan together for this bus station and see if we can bring all the parties together to try and have a plan. Councillor Wilmore, who chairs the advisory panel, South Gloss, and also Western Gateway, has been also saying we should look at some of the management of Cribs Causeway because of a bus station there, and I believe it's the same ownership, Kevin, and it's better managed. So we need to work through this one because it is a gateway, and if we're to get people out of their cars and come in by public transport from Radstock, from Midsummer Norton, from Wales, from Chippenham, from Corsham, from the city itself, from Bristol and Bath, Keynsham, sort of just name some places the buses go up into Yate and South Gloucestershire and Gloucester. We've got to have a decent facility. So that's the first point I'll make. Second point is really to say we need to push ahead with the bus operator grant. We haven't had that settlement from government yet, and it's very worrying. All our contracts run on the 31st of March next year. And if we don't get the government money, we're going to be in serious cut mode. The transport levy is very important from this authority to make sure that all the authorities pay and make sure we can pay that staff bill, because 2% is no good when the staff bill is 6% to pay for bus drivers, just like council staff, they have to be paid for. The other issue really is about making sure we push ahead with the measures of bus priorities, walking and cycling on the A4 to Bristol through with Baines. I'd like to see more plans for Keynsham, by the way, and interchange with the railway station developed. There's a gap in the hole. and also make sure in the city itself, on the transport movement strategy, we actually link it up with the houses. More importantly, there's more bus priority on the networks going out towards Frome and Wales, and we actually put some bus lanes in priority measures in for public transport. And finally, we make sure we fund the train services to Salisbury that are funded by the Combined Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Moss, can you defer to Councillor Jackson, please?
Thank you. I wondered if you considered that the bus station was adequately designed and provided for accessibility for the disabled, especially the partially sighted.
I think, Councillor Jackson, that bus station needs a lot of work on it. For a start, I'd like to see I love the Eco Centre, but need to come out and we need to get the bus station back in use for a travel. We've got staff, we haven't got a place for them to work, so we need to do that. And I agree that the signage, the information, the help points, it's not there for passengers who are partially sighted. There's no help point to press, there's no buttons, and the staff are upstairs. So I think it really does, and this is no blame on First or any other bus operator, or National Express or Fairsaver. It's about Great Western Railway, it's about getting everybody round the table and getting a plan. If Kevin's going to chair the Transport Committee at WEC, I welcome that. Then we need to work on a plan also with Western Gateway to make, because of cross-border buses, to make sure we get a better service there.
Thank you for that
I agree with you.
Thank you. I'm very pleased you didn't need a roving mic, but you actually got to a microphone yourself anyway, so thank you for your statement. I'd next like to call Charlie Syred.
You pronounced my surname right, that's rare. Okay. I'm speaking on behalf of Westact for West of England Shared Transport and Active Travel. We're glad to see that there have recently been a myriad of consultations for the local plan, the 10-year movement strategy, and the A4 Bath to Bristol proposals. There was a low turnout to the local plan consultation event we attended, in part due to miscommunication about the venue, a seemingly last-minute change from the pub that it was supposed to be in to a van in a nearby car park that a very helpful attendee of the pub was able to point us to. Perhaps any similar changes to ongoing and future consultation events can be communicated more clearly so that local residents' voices can be better heard. That being said, we were pleased to join many other residents at an A4 consultation, so that was good. We hope whether there was high or low attendance at any of the relevant consultations, the diversity of communities' needs within BAMES will be considered, including those who might have been less able to engage in consultations. I know we've already had a couple of transport statements so far, and there have been other ones submitted to this meeting as well. Specifically about better buses as well, which of course deserve their due attention. But there are also many, many others who aren't able to engage with formal council processes like this one, or the many consultations taking place, and I'd like to remind the council to consider their needs too with respect to transport. We at Westact are hoping to build on the conversation about transport in BAMES with an event in Farnborough on Saturday the 10th of January, and we would be glad to see any councillors who are invested in improving transport for the people of Farnborough and the surrounding areas there, as well as other BAMES residents who would like to join in the conversation. Thank you.
Many thanks, Charlie. Do we have any factual questions from group leaders? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I'd next like to call Amelia Melville. Do we have Amelia Melville? I'll call her at the end just in case she's been delayed. Right, I'd next like to call Jackie Head, and I believe the next three speakers really run on one into the other because they're at Chew Valley. So, Jackie, if we could have you first.
Hello, I'm here with two colleagues, Elaine and Phil, on behalf of Chew Valley CIC Sustainable Transport Partnership. We're the group that's working with WECA and the Big Lemon to deliver two West local bus services, the X91 and the 99. We're uncomfortably aware of the potential funding cliff edge in March 2026. Did you know that to continue to run, these routes have to be registered with the Traffic Commissioner by the 22nd of January? That's 2 months away, and we have no agreed funding in place. The recently published government bus bill shows new support for buses in rural areas, recognising the need to protect socially necessary routes. The X91 and the 99 are socially necessary routes. And our report, which we circulated to all councillors electronically, the Great Big Bus Survey, had almost 1,000 replies and shows on every single page that that is the case. On the 1st of December, officers and council members from Baines will be attending a meeting in Wecker to argue the case for buses in Baines. You'll have lots of routes to think about, many communities lobbying for your support, and we realise it will be hard to know how to judge one route above another. So this statement outlines, or our three of us, the statement outlines 9 criteria that we think you should be using to judge whether a route should continue. We'd also like to ask Kevin Guy if he could meet with us separately and talk further about these issues. So the 9 proposed criteria. The first one, how long has the route been running, and is it sufficient time to have tested its potential? In terms of the X91 and the 99, we would argue they have not had long enough to be tested properly. Bus routes need 3 to 5 years. We've had 1 year and 1.5 years, respectively. Please give us time to grow. Secondly, given the length of the time that the route has been operating, has it developed demand at a reasonable rate? The X91 began with a great triumph of numbers on it. Now, 18 months later, 3 times as many people travel on that bus service. It's been deep, hard work, but we have got a huge number of people now using and valuing that service. The 99 was always going to be a slower burn to get to that position, and as Elaine will explain, we've had lots of problems with recording on ticketer machines, so we don't have accurate data. But we believe that's a vital route, particularly for getting sixth formers to school, and we know it's important to so many people in the Chew Valley, and it is used, albeit presently in small numbers. So those are the first 2 criteria. I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Elaine to give you the next.
Jackie, did you want to...
Unless you've got questions on that first bit.
I was about to say, perfectly timed, but did you want to stay for questions? You want to stay for questions. So are there any factual questions from group leaders? Okay. Right, I'd like to call Elaine Watman now to speak.
Okay, so moving on, the third criteria is have the route's recorded growth been hampered by issues beyond its control. So the X91 travels in and out of Bristol, but after Imperial Park, it's not permitted to pick up passengers from the bus stops following that because of the arrangement that Wecker has with First Bus. So every day it passes queues of people wanting to travel into Bristol that it simply cannot pick up. The second point is that 99, being a very rural route, struggles to operate to bus stops that don't even have a marker flags, let alone benches or shelters or any phone signal. This also means that the ticketer machines are significantly under-reporting footfall on the bus. Indeed, this has also been an issue for the X91, but albeit to a lesser degree. As our careful analysis of data has recently shown, both routes have large amounts of missing data not captured on the ticketer. Routes on the 99 have 11, 17, 23, and in 1 month, 41% of data missing. When viability of a route is judged on cost per passenger, how can that be accurately done with such data shortfall? Take a look at this example months. All the yellow slots are where the ticketer machine was not recording. The fourth criteria, what evidence is there that this route is meeting social needs? Our great big bus survey shows that both of these routes are vital for the health and well-being of users, helping prevent rural isolation and connecting villages to each other. There are quotes on every page to show this, and I would encourage you to read the parts in the report which show how we have created a strong, supportive community, both on the buses and through our membership, events and social media campaigns. The fifth criteria is what evidence is there to show that these routes are helping decarbonise transport. As we have often said, Baines will not meet its decarbonisation of transport targets if it does not provide public transport into its most rural of areas. This carbon calculation provided by WECA officer shows dramatic decarbonising impact of swapping the X91 and the 99 buses. We've included a chart which shows this, and they've shown a carbon calculator to specifically look at the X91 and the 99 journey, and it shows significant carbon savings from bus travel as opposed to diesel, petrol and electric cars. Given the length of journeys from the Chew Valley to other areas, we should be putting all our energy into maintaining and increasing bus journeys if we want to decrease the carbon footprint for Baines. Criteria 6, is there evidence of high customer satisfaction on this route? The Great British Survey has answered this by nearly 1,000 people. The satisfaction ratings recorded, both quantitatively and qualitatively, show this on both routes.
Could you bring your statement to close?
Yes, I'll now pass to my colleague Phil Collins.
Would you like to stay for questions?
Yes, please.
Any factual questions from group leaders?
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, as part of the trio, we have Phil Collins.
Thank you very much. I'll finish off with the criteria. Criteria 7, I'm going to dive straight in. Is this route operating in an area of low connectivity? In other words, how much public transport is on offer here if the route is withdrawn? Remember the black hole of public transport in the Chew Valley. Indeed, your own evidence base to the present local plan in the Chew Valley is recorded as having no public transport because that was done back in 2023 when it was only Westlink working. The Westlink service itself is not working well in our ultra-rural context, and we've become aware of high dissatisfaction ratings. Figures published by North Somerset Council show that Westlink only delivers 41% of requested rides overall. This data also shows by its mapping that the Chew Valley Westlink is effectively functioning as a school bus, taking students from South Bristol, outside the qualifying area for free bus travel, to Chew Valley School. This results in 3 half-full buses travelling in and out each day and making it impossible to get a ride from anywhere else in the Chew Valley. So please don't assume that our public transport needs can be met by Westlink. Criteria 8, would the removal of this route have a strong negative impact on the local community? We've worked very hard as a group to get people to trust travelling by bus, and this trust is hard won after the 672 was drawn, and then Westlink service under-delivered. Please help us to continue to build this trust and usage by supporting both the X91 and the 99, continuing after March 2026. I'll end with a brief summary of the points that we've covered between the three of us. Have these two Chew Valley routes running for less than 2 years had enough time to prove their net worth? I think unlikely. Given this short time, it's clear that demand is continuing to increase, so there is need in the valley. Be aware that these vital routes have also been hampered, as Elaine mentioned, by external issues such as ticketer machines and tracking failings, particularly with signal problems for mobile phones, etc. in the valley. Read our big bus survey, as Jackie referred, to see the strong evidence we have for them meeting social needs, as well as having high satisfaction levels. Please note the significant evidence that they help decarbonisation, especially given the long average journey distances covered by passengers on the 2 buses. Please take on board also the serious negative impact that the removal of these services would have on a swathe of local communities across an important part of Baines. And finally, please understand that if the X91 and the 99 weren't continued, the whole of the Chew Valley, and indeed all of Baines from the A37 westwards, would be without any timetable bus services. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? No. Thank you very much. My final speaker is Charlie Knight. I've just heard Charlie Knight cannot be present. Okay. We're now going to go on to agenda item 8, which is the annual climate and nature report. So I'm going to invite Councillor Sarah Warren, to recommend the recommendations, to support the recommendations in the report. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. So on Tuesday, we held a climate and nature networking event here in the Guildhall. It was inspiring to be able to bring together people from all over the district, members of our community who are working hard in either a work or a voluntary capacity on action for climate and nature. We met to share ideas, skills and knowledge so as to increase our community's capacity to take greater and faster action in this space. It was also an opportunity to thank the wide range of organisations, businesses, public sector bodies, groups and individuals who have contributed to the progress that we are making every day towards a lower carbon, nature positive and climate resilient district. Surveys repeatedly show that the vast majority of the public care hugely about climate and nature. They want to live in a warm home, safe from flooding or from overheating, that is cheap to heat using local electricity that doesn't cost the earth, to have access to frequent, reliable public transport, safe space to walk, wheel or cycle, convenient electric vehicle charging and streets free of congestion, to eat affordable, healthy food grown close to home, and to have access to nature as well as clean air and water. And that is the vision we are working towards through our climate and nature action plans. In that context, I'm really proud of this annual progress report on climate and nature, which demonstrates our continuing leadership amongst similar local authorities. Carbon emissions in Bath and North East Somerset continue to reduce steadily, having halved per person over the past 2 decades, and we are also undertaking leading work to track and restore nature. The comparative tracker of Council action on climate and nature is the climateemergency.uk Climate Action Scorecard, where Baines is the top small provincial unitary authority behind only a number of London boroughs who benefit from enviable public transport courtesy of Transport for London, and the larger and better resourced cities of Bristol, Glasgow and Edinburgh. Our emissions are reducing steadily whilst our commitment remains as strong as ever, with climate and nature amongst our core priorities and influencing every decision we take. The Council's own emissions only make up a tiny percentage of those of the wider district, and the Council only owns a small percentage of land. That is why we cannot achieve net zero for our district alone, and partnership with the whole wider community is essential. Nevertheless, our position at the Council is central in leading decarbonisation of the district, because not only of our unique regulatory role, but also our convening power. Our leading work over the year includes progress on electrifying our fleet, with 15 new electric vehicles added in the year to March and £10 million now budgeted to replace our waste and recycling HGVs with electric. Securing funding with partners led by the Forest of Avon for the first new national forest in 30 years, having facilitated the planting of 100,000 trees over preceding years. Installing new rooftop solar panels on Bath Sports and Leisure Centre and making plans to upgrade both Carswood Adult Day Centre and the Civic Centre in Keynsham with solar and/or heat pumps, which will not only reduce carbon emissions but also the building's running costs. Across the wider district, in common with the rest of the UK, decarbonising our existing building stock and transport remain 2 of our greatest challenges. But even in those areas, however, we are making it easier for people to walk, wheel, cycle and use public transport, and we are supporting the owners of listed buildings in Bath to save energy through our Green Heritage Homes project. Our ecological commitment is to hit the global target of 30% of land managed positively for nature by 2030. As biodiversity net gain early adopters, we have enabled creation of 7 off-site habitat banks in Baines, which will yield over 200 hectares of habitats, including species-rich grassland. And in our next local plan, on which we recently consulted, we are proposing an increased biodiversity net gain requirement from 10 to 20%, meaning bigger, better, more connected habitats in future. Colleagues, there is a huge amount of positive action in our district, and there is much to celebrate despite the seriousness of both emergencies, and I therefore commend this excellent report to you.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. Councillor House, are you going to second this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It gives me great pleasure to second this item. When the Lib Dem Council supported the climate and nature emergency declarations, we took on the challenge of ensuring actions followed words. What this report shows is that we've stepped up to the plate, and we are demonstrating a strong commitment as a Lib Dem run authority to deliver on these declarations, and we're delivering well, but there is much to do. We have developed strong partnerships. We cannot do this without that strong support. The report shows we are taking action, being ambitious, including on the council-owned estate and vehicle fleets. Across the authority, greenhouse emissions are down by 46% since 2005. We are in partnership playing our part in planting the first new national forest in 30 years. In noting the report, I would like to highlight in Baines we continue to have lower emissions per capita compared to the rest of the South West and England averages. Decarbonising transport remains, however, one of our biggest challenges, and we were slightly ahead in Baines in ultra-low emissions vehicles, but we need to do more on EV charging, and we need to do more on supporting our bus networks to get passenger numbers back to pre-COVID levels, and we need WECA to help us to do this. We also need to deliver a new railway station at Salford, which again I'm hopeful that we will get WECA Transport for City Regions funding for. There's a high demand for our cycle hangars, and then moving on to the ecological emergency, again there's much to celebrate. The delivery in green infrastructure projects, the tree planting in places like Rush Hill Open Space, Pennyquick, the Bath River Line project, the Summer Valley Rediscovered Green Spaces, just to name a few. So I'm very happy to note the amazing work that our team and our officers are doing as set out in the attachments, and I'm happy to second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Hurst. And I would like to call Councillor Wright to speak, please.
Thank you. All key climate and environmental metrics are resolutely moving in the wrong direction, and our national government is committed to ensuring that continues, from licensing of fossil fuel exploration and extraction, expansion of airports, road building, non-future-proofed house building, and the suppression of process, to name just a few. Baines Council is clearly not responsible for all of this, but political leadership at every level should be honest and open on the dire situation we are in, and that the world is just getting hotter. This report, I'm afraid, is self-congratulatory and fails to be really straightforward about how to ensure the public make change, and the Council helps with this. The figures for reduction in energy emissions are based on national figures and are mostly linked from coal to renewables. This doesn't tell us anything about Baines. Planting trees and bushes is not going to make the difference. This report fails to give information of local progress, especially with regard to transport, which this Council knows is responsible for a third of total emissions. We do not have the climate emergency under control here in the UK or in Baines. It is greenwashing to believe this. I repeat, the situation is dire and millions are already impacted daily. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Johnson.
Yes, apologies. Sorry, just that previous speech took me by surprise. I'll just start by saying I actually think this report is extremely comprehensive and shows that the Council is very committed to the emergencies we declared, and it's an extremely difficult area to be involved in. I work in carbon reduction day in, day out, and I can see that the Council is pushing forward in the right direction and doing what it needs to be doing. I do think there's some areas in this report where we could have perhaps greater clarity, a bit more transparency, and just different ways of reporting some of the figures that are put before us. Firstly, the report sort of has a slight reliance, when we talk about Scope 3 emissions, on EPC ratings as an indicator of carbon performance within our leased commercial estate. And I mean, EPCs are theoretical measures of energy efficiency, not actual emissions. So I don't really think it's appropriate to imply that because we've got higher EPCs, it means that those properties have lower carbon emissions. they could be doing all sorts in those buildings to actually increase emissions and have the highest CPC rating that we can bestow upon it. So I think that clouds that area that we need improvement on within Scope 3. And just continuing on that, we do need to improve are collecting consumption data for these properties, and there are ways that we can make estimations, including with square footage of the buildings, what the buildings are used for, and what energy sources they have within them to make estimations. I think as leases renew, we should have a process where we can contractually make our tenants are obliged to disclose their emissions data as an option. Also, there's a lot of reporting on corporate travel. I felt like an easy area within Scope 3 that we could have calculated as well was home-to-school transport. That doesn't appear, as far as I can see, in the report, unless I've missed it. And I do think it is right what Councillor Wright said about reporting from 2005, as it is location-based reporting, and therefore the changes within coal use in the UK. I do think we need to sort of set a new baseline to work off of and show progress from, rather than sticking with 2005, because again, it's just clouding those figures and what actually we're achieving, even since this administration took over in 2019. So I think that would be a positive step forward.
Could you bring your statement to a close, please?
Yes, I will email Sarah the rest of my points.
Okay. Sorry to stop you in mid-flow, but it's a long agenda. So thank you, Councillor Johnson. And I go on to Councillor Henman, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to welcome the report and appreciate the hard work of all the officers. These are very challenging times, and there is still a long way to go. But we have to continue to push forward towards a just transition. And it is noticeable that Bath and North East Somerset is leading in many areas on climate and nature. I think it's important that the report makes it clear this is a partnership approach, and as a council it's crucial to work in partnership with all of the many excellent community organisations, businesses, experts and key employers across the district, and working in partnership also with the West of England Combined Authority. And so it's welcome to see the progress and the drop in emissions, as well as an increase in renewable energy. Strong local examples have been already mentioned, such as the Keynsham Recycling Hub and adult social care centres here in Bath. But this process is also about bringing people's heating bills down. So it's encouraging that the report highlights strong partnerships to share expertise on improving efficiency in people's homes, including the Green Open Homes, Green Heritage Homes, Community Energy Network, Energy Champions, and the support from Retrofit West for homeowners and businesses. Thanks again to the support of the West of England Combined Authority. So we all need to work together to deliver this change, and I think we need to be even bolder and see further ambition in coming years to work together so that residents can also live more sustainably. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moss.
Thank you, and thank you for this report. It is comprehensive and it is ambitious. I think possibly the one bit that is missing is the challenges that we face. And I think it's interesting that this is being discussed just before we discuss the West of England growth strategy, and probably another month or so before we're discussing the local plan. Because I think ambition is going to be challenged by both those reports, both those issues, both those discussions. I think in terms of the growth strategy, I think what we've all noticed, what the statistics have shown, is over the last decade or so, the economy in Baines has changed. Average salaries have dropped, and there has been a real shift towards a reliance on tourism, and tourism needs to be serviced with the hospitality industry, the hospitality economy. And I think we all know that hospitality salaries are low, housing costs in Bath are high, and that is reinforcing the live-in-ness commute to Bath problem that we have. And that certainly, that commuter traffic and the difficulties of the public transport are not going to help towards addressing issues with climate emergency. And the local plan, so the draft local plan that has been published is going to reinforce that, with a lack of affordable housing in Bath being part of that local plan, and house building in North East Somerset is simply going to reinforce those issues unless we, as part of the local plan discussions, actually tackle the issue of making sure that people have the ability to live in affordable housing close to where they work. So that is not just about work in Bath, but also challenging the skills shortages and the training shortages that exist in North East Somerset. So, sorry to be a Grinch this time of year, but I think the issues facing Baines with regard to the climate emergency are going to be really challenged by growth and by the local plan. That said, clearly the Labour Group will be supporting this and be supporting implementation of the policies in Bath and North East Somerset.
Thank you, Councillor Moss. Councillor Goodson.
Thank you, Chair. Very simple and brief one from my perspective. A bit of a glaring missing. I've tried to take on the wheeling and cycling and walking and using the car less. And we are creating wonderful cycling routes and corridors throughout Bath and North East Somerset, which hopefully, like Aldwood Roads, will lead to Bath. But once we get here as electric cyclists, there is nowhere to charge. So I'm wondering whether that might be possible for us to take that on board. There's a consultation been happening recently about the Guildhall here and adaptations to the car parking space, but I noticed that councillors are not provided with any cycling recharging provision, and I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waite, please.
First of all, I'd like to thank Sarah and her team for such a comprehensive and detailed report. I'm speaking to you as Chair of the Climate Emergency and Sustainability Committee because we have the benefit of speaking to Sarah and her team on a regular basis. And it is worth pointing out a few other things that makes her life and the life of her very hard-working officers difficult. It is not a service which is legally required, and so, as we know, the budget of Baines is massively skewed towards adult and social care and the other things that have to be done legally and necessary and must be part of the package. So her team is working so hard in such a wide remit across the whole of the authority to try and make a difference to our climate emergency situation in Baines. And it is with great credit that she actually tells us that we're top of the list of smaller councils in this requirement. So I congratulate her. I do agree that we certainly are not at the end of the process, but what has been achieved in the last few years with such little cash and resource is quite amazing, and I congratulate her, and I will look forward to continuing to monitor the excellent work that she does.
Thank you, Councillor Waite. We have two more speakers, Councillor Hughes and Councillor David. So Councillor Hughes first, please.
Thank you. And thank you for this interesting report. It's great to see progress being made. Our residents generally are supportive of the climate emergency policy. However, to reflect concerns raised by some residents, Would it be possible for future reports to provide more detail on the financial impact these changes will have on households and the local cost of living? One example, with the proposal for the increase in BNG from 10% to 20%, what effect will this have on build costs and housing affordability in an area where house prices are already extremely high? We all recognise that reaching net zero by 2030 will come at significant costs, and greater clarity on what this means for residents would be very helpful. But I'm happy to support the report. Thank you.
And our final speaker is Councillor David. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to welcome the progress report, in particular around the ecological emergency and the progress that has been made both at the strategic level and also through projects such as Bath River Line, Summer Valley Reconnected and Bathscape. My comments very much follow Councillor Waite's regarding the financial constraints on our work. And I think that many residents will also want us to do more despite this, including on adapting to climate change, the resilience of food systems and the health of our rivers. I'm conscious that many projects to progress green infrastructure have depended on strategic funding via WECA, including under the Green Recovery Fund, which ends in March 2026. Clearly, continuity and certainty of funding is really important if we're to progress key projects and also retain our expert officers. So I'd really welcome your comments, Sarah, on what confidence you have on the availability of further strategic funding, either via WECA or directly from government, that will enable us to continue the development of local programmes of climate and nature recovery.
Thank you. As there are no more speakers, Councillor Warren, would you like to reply to the debate and points made and to summarise, please?
Yes, I would. I should start actually by thanking the council officers who worked so hard to collate the data and pull together the impressive report. So I agree with lots of the points that have been made. So I agree that there are areas where we need to develop indicators more fully for future key performance indicators and future reports, and it's something that we're working on. I agree with those who've commented that it is a very challenging area and that challenges remain around transport and in other areas, and also that we need to continue to be bolder. I agree that we are short of money. I agree with the importance of working in partnership, and especially with the West of England Combined Authority. I think as an administration we agree with the comments that have been made about the importance of skills being available to people in all parts of the district and of co-locating work and housing, and I think that both the WECA growth plan and the local plan are aiming to support that aim. I would thank you very much, Dave, for the suggestion about e-bike charging at the Guildhall, which is a great idea. In response to Sean, I will say so we can aim to look at the impact on households, but I would point out that net zero new build, which is a key plank of our local plan partial update brought in 3 years ago, of course, reduces the running costs of new homes built in that way quite substantially. So on the whole, I would imagine it would be quite a positive impact. So I do have a word that I wanted to say. So I've spoken about lots of genuinely groundbreaking work here, and we are part of arguably the leading region of the UK on climate and nature. But I do need you to be aware that the funding for many of the work streams that I've spoken of, and for several of the expert staff who work in this area, is due to end in March 2026. I think this is a time when the West of England Mayor must now decide the extent to which she values the great work that is going on here in Baines and all over this region. Is she willing to fund and support us in going further, creating jobs and health-giving green space and opportunity? Benefits of the investment of WECA to date include, but are not limited to, access to nature and opportunity for those on low incomes, work experience for those not currently in employment, education or training, and careers for those seeking sustainable employment for the future, for example, in the building and land management spheres. Climate and nature are integral to any vision of growth in this region, and they must be treated as such. So on that note, though, thank you for the very positive discussion, and I'd like to move to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. We'll now go to the vote. Okay, apologies, we have to stop this for now. That was null and void, we have to try again. Back on. Has everybody voted who would like to vote? Okay, in which case the result is the Annual Climate for Nature report has been recommended. Obviously with a majority. Right, we're now going to go on to agenda item 9, the West of England Growth Strategy, and the mover is Councillor Guy.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, the West of England Growth Strategy sets out the overall ambitions of the combined authority, responding to the government's growth agenda to create 72,000 new jobs across the region and target 28% growth over the next 10 years. We brought this to Council to give you the opportunity to endorse this strategy adopted by the West of England Committee last month. Developing the strategy was a joint effort between the combined authority, its partnership with Baines, South Gloucestershire and Bristol councils. This has been a really positive process, representing a completely new approach to the West of England Combined Authority. I'll let you read into that as you will. It sets out a joint ambitions of the councils and combined authority, building on the individual goals of each council. In Baines, goals, ambitions and key projects are drawn from our own economic strategy adopted last year by yourselves, and Councillor Roper will speak on this in more detail later. The twin principles of inclusivity and sustainability are central to the economic strategy and form key elements within the growth strategy. Councillor Warren has welcomed the strong emphasis on climate and nature, reflecting the fact that the natural environment is the key regional asset in one of the greenest regions in England. I also welcome its focus on sustainable and inclusive growth, aligning closely with our own economic strategy within Baines. Key projects within the economic strategy are taken forward into the growth strategy. These include 2 growth zones, the Somer Valley and the Central Bristol to Bath zone. Our part is Bath Quays, the Riverside Innovation District and the A4 corridor. By bringing all these threads together and standing together behind a joint vision for the region, we are aiming to win a larger funding packages from the government and, crucially, attract private investment to the region. As the Mayor has said during the strategy launch, the West is the place to invest. We are proud of the partnership work we have assisted with Bristol and South Gloucestershire and the Mayoral Combined Authority in developing this strategy, and taking it forward are all our key ambitions that are detailed within this policy. I therefore move the recommendations 1.1 and 1.2.
Thank you, Councillor Guy. Councillor Roper, are you going to second this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the motion. I welcome the West of England Growth Strategy. This is an essential tool for securing tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds for our 3 local authorities. It helps put the best value notice that is generally accepted as having held back funding for our region firmly behind us, and this is to be welcomed. I'd like to remind Council of our own economic strategy, which Council approved in February last year. Our strategy is drafted exclusively for Bath and North East Somerset, and many of the strands within it are woven into the combined authority strategy. This is to be welcomed. As a reminder, our aim over the next decade is to build a fair, green, creative and connected authority. We have 6 specific objectives. We will create a greener economy that is nature positive. We will support our residents to access and thrive in good work. We will establish Bath and North East Somerset as a centre of excellence for inclusive innovation and creativity. We will create resilient businesses, building a diverse and sustainable business base. And we will address housing affordability. And finally, we will support stronger places, building resilience and sharing prosperity more fairly. I know that there are those that will scoff at setting out our goals and ambition in a strategy document, but I say to them, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. I commend Mayor Godwin for the speed with which he's delivered this strategy, and I would ask Council for its full support in endorsing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roper. We don't have any speakers. Oh, sorry. Councillor Wright, thank you.
Thank you. It is useful to see that the Metro Mayor and Combined Authority are considering a strategy to improve the lives of residents in this region. However, the term growth fails to identify the real need for equality and sustainability in the region. The fundamental issue for many in both rural and urban communities is that housing is too expensive and there are poor transport links. Regional leadership across all parties needs to work harder to improve the situation many are facing. That should be about sustainable, improved quality of living that seeks to address inequity, moving more quickly to ensure funding is actually delivered quickly. People in the region are rightly fed up of hearing about WECA strategies and instead expect urgent action to address the challenges so many are facing to put a roof over heads and get to places. For many, this strategy appears to be another big spend on consultants with buzzwords. However, I am grateful that it has come to this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Guy, would you like to respond to the debate and to summarise?
Thank you, Chair. With regards to growth and housing, I actually agree with Joanna Wright. Councillor Wright, we could go further. It's a shame that the Green Party refused to sign the housing strategy, while all the political parties did. So there's a bit of grandstanding there, I'm afraid. I'm more than happy to move to the vote.
Could you refer which point of order?
Point of order, it wasn't a strategy, it was an accord. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Wright, you need to say which rule it is before we can listen to your point of order.
Pardon? It was inaccurate. It wasn't a strategy.
Sorry,
it was an accord. It was the wrong thing to say.
Yeah, that's not a point of order. Okay, thank you. Right, we now move to the vote. Is there anybody else who would like to vote? No? Okay, this motion has achieved a majority, so it is passed. Thank you. We will now go on to agenda item 10, which is the appointment of a chief executive. Councillor Guy, I believe you're moving this.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, I'm very pleased to be proposing the report sharing the Restructuring Implementation Committee's recommendation that Sophie Broadfield be appointed as the next Chief Executive of Baines Council. This recommendation follows a very rigorous and detailed recruitment process. We had specialist outside advice and very thorough and wide-ranging interviews were held involving staff, partner organisations, key institutions represented locally, councillors and cabinet members. I'm very confident that Sophie is the best candidate out of a ridiculously strong field, and we have the extra advantage that she will be able to hit the ground running. As you will have seen from the public announcement, Sophie has extensive and relevant experience, including in the civil service, DEFRA and the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, which constantly changes its name, as well as being Executive Director for Sustainable Communities here in Baines. Sophie's experience in making the area a better place for people to live, work and visit, and leading large-scale transformation and organisational cultural change fits well with the ambitious plans of Bath and North East Somerset. She will continue to lead the Council's work to build a fair, green, creative and connected place where we're able to help improve people's lives across the region. In anticipation of the Council supporting these recommendations, I'd like to offer my congratulations to Sophie personally. Now, before I get to those recommendations, I did promise Will that I would embarrass him slightly. So I am now going to divulge, with the Chair's permission, to talk a little bit about our outgoing Chief Executive. We do have some lovely pictures of when he was a baby from his wife. No, we don't. So, as Will has stated, he's been a Chief Executive for 6 years here in Baines and over 40 years of illustrious service to local government. One might say a swan song performance. For those of you who know Swansea football, that was a football joke apparently. That one was written for me. Will has led Baines through some incredible challenges that he's mentioned earlier. In particular, the COVID pandemic and recovery, which impacted every part of the council. He guided many successful initiatives to improve the way we do things locally, delivering the new Keynsham Recycling Centre, retrofitting the Civic Centre, big changes in such as adult social services, which we brought back in-house, and the Bob process of restructuring within the council services. At all times, he led with clarity and strength, while supporting and mentoring and championing the officers who make Baines such a successful organisation, working closely with Cabinet and working for the good of the council as a whole. We know being Chief Executive is both a hard and rewarding job. I know your attention will now change to focus on a more work-life balance. I hope that means you will have more time with your family, friends and football, not necessarily in that order, alongside your ambition for continuing and contribution to local government in new ways. Will, genuinely, your principled and visionary approach and deep commitment to public service have left a lasting legacy. On behalf of us all, I thank you for your hard work and dedication to the Council, and from us all, best wishes for the future.
Councillor Moss, can you follow that as your seconding the recommendation?
I do have to do the official bit at the end, I'm afraid, which is I move recommendation 2.1 to 2.2.
Now, Councillor Moss, can you follow that?
Thank you very much. As you said, Liz, follow that. More than happy to second this report. And of course, the focus of the report is about the appointment of Sophie as our new Chief Executive. Can I say it was an exhaustive, and for the candidates, an exhausting process. So I'm best wishes and congratulations to Sophie on her appointment. But like Kevin, I think it would be wrong and also a missed opportunity not to say thank you to Will for the work that you've done over this last 5 or 6 years. And I suppose there's a lesson for Sophie here as well. I was on the interview panel when you were appointed, and we came out of that interview panel with clear plans about what Baines would look like over the next 5 or 6 years, and of course then there was COVID. So I suppose the lesson to Sophie is, I think it was Clausewitz's dictum that the best laid plans only last until contact with the enemy. I'm not sure the enemy might be totally appropriate in this instance, but I hope you take the point that I've made. And I think the last time we talked, Will, was I asked you about what plans you'd got, and you said that you're going to see a few football derbies. And I was thinking, oh, well, there's Rovers City, there's clearly Bath City against Larkhall, Or maybe if you're going further afield, then we'll be talking about Swansea against Cardiff or Newport or whatever. But no, Will chucks it in. Well, we made plans for the Sevilla derby, and then there's maybe Milan at the San Siro. So clearly the plans are slightly wider than I initially thought. So I've got a couple of suggestions for you, and please, if anyone thinks these are motivated by jealousy, then I'll have words later. These are an honest suggestion of derbies to go to. First of all, there's Bodo Klimt versus Tromsø. It's the Arctic Circle derby. It's only -11 there at the moment, but I'm sure that it'll be warm if you go there. And then, of course, there's the Buenos Aires derby, Boca Juniors against River Plate. And I'm sure if you want to stress test your life insurance, that's the derby to go down to. But more seriously, I really do hope that you do enjoy the travels, you enjoy the football, you enjoy your retirement, and I'm sure it's not going to be a total retirement. And again, thank you very much for the work that you've done for Bath and North East Somerset Council.
I have one speaker, Councillor Walker.
Thank you. I just really wanted to concur. It was a very long day, and at the end, actually, after debate, and obviously I didn't have a voting right, I thought we'd have to get our sleeping bags out and reconvene the next day. But we did. They did choose Sophie, and I'd like to congratulate her, and I'd like to wish Will well, and thank him for his support when I was chair and vice chair. Thank you, Will.
Sorry, just very quickly, thank you very much for those words. And just to sort of respond, yes, that is my plan to do a bit of that. I've just been to the Nice-Monaco derby.
We don't need to know, Will.
So there are a few on my list, and yeah, that's my focus. I will be working as well. So it's, and as I said before, local government's very, very dear to my heart, and it's, I think it's the most successful part of the public sector. It touches many people's lives, and again, thank you for your words. Very nice, thank you.
Councillor Guy, do you want to sum up, or shall we just go straight to the vote?
We'll move to the vote.
Okay, so we're voting to recommend to accept these recommendations.
Fat fingers.
I'm pleased to announce we have a unanimous vote, and these recommendations have been passed. Now turn to agenda item 11, Treasury Management Monitoring Report, and we're going to look at the recommendations the report makes. The mover is Councillor Mark Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. This is the Treasury Management Report to 30th of September 2025, prepared in accordance with the Treasury Code of Practice. It reports on how the Council is doing with managing its borrowing and investments when measured against an agreed set of indicators. We have a pretty full Council agenda today, and I'm delighted to say that I can keep this speech brief because the report is reassuringly unexciting. Our total borrowing as at 30th of September stands at just over 278 million, which is well within the authorised limit and operational boundary approved by the Council. We have not undertaken any new long-term borrowing in the first half of the year, reflecting our strategy to minimise costs and maintain flexibility. Our liquid balances were at 41.8 million, primarily invested in highly secure counterparties. The average return achieved was 4.19%, which is above the benchmark and reflects the continued high interest rate environment. All Treasury activity has been carried out in full compliance with the CITFA Code of Practice and the Council's own Treasury Management Strategy, and the prudential indicators remain within approved limits. The Council's Treasury Management remains prudent, compliant and aligned with our strategy. We are achieving solid investment returns whilst managing risk and maintaining flexibility for future borrowing. I commend the report to Council, and I thank officers for their unglamorous but vital work in managing the Council's Treasury functions so carefully and successfully, and move the recommendations in 2.1 and 2.2.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Biddleston, you are seconding this, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to second this motion. The Treasury Management Monitoring Report demonstrates that all prudential indicators remain within target, borrowing is well managed and investments are delivering returns above benchmark. It is also a forecast underspend in financing costs alongside a clear commitment to ESG principles. This reflects sound financial stewardship and responsible risk management, and I commend the report to Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Councillor Elliott, would you like to sum up?
I'm happy to move to the vote. Thank you.
We now move to the vote. Right, this vote was unanimous to accept these recommendations. We now move on to agenda item 12, which is the Avon Pension Fund Annual Report. And I believe, Councillor Simon, you are going to propose the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm pleased to move these reports. I'm going to assume that the Council has read them because I want to look forward and concentrate on the current major issues. Before I do, I'd like to say thank you to Councillors Paul Crossley and Sean Stevenson McGall for their leadership over the past 2 years. They've done an excellent job. I'd also like to thank Nick Weaver, who's the independent chair of the Pension Board, which comprises representatives of employing authorities who provide a welcome oversight of the work of the fund. The most important development recently is the government's decision that the funds invested in local government pension schemes should be managed by larger pools with more powers. This included an instruction that those funds in the Brunel pool, based in Bristol, should transfer to a new pool. This was in many ways regrettable because of the strength of the Brunel pool, particularly in matters related to the environment. Our decision-making on which pool to join was also not helped by the government putting a finger on the balance on scales at a late stage. However, we're now making good progress with transferring to the new pool, and a memorandum of understanding has been agreed. We're now looking at the detailed legal agreements. For myself, I'll do everything I can to ensure that the new pool maintains the very high standards of environmental, social and governance involvement that Brunel demonstrated. We want to be exemplar investors. The second major issue that's been facing the committee is the renewed concern expressed by a substantial number of fund members and the general public about investments in armaments and defence industries, especially in relation to the tragedy in Gaza. This has led the fund to undertake a survey of members about their attitudes to such investments, and there's a brief summary in the covering paper. While there was a substantial number who thought we should entirely divest, this didn't amount to a majority. The committee will go on to consider the issues and the implications at its meeting next month. However, I can assure this meeting that we already exclude manufacturers of highly controversial weapons, such as cluster bombs, and those companies known to be in breach of the UN Guiding Principles on Human Rights. And this has excluded some of the largest American arms manufacturers. I'd also like to note that the fund is already ahead of its targets for decarbonising the overall impact of its investments. We'll be continuing to work on maintaining the agenda in relation to climate change and the environment more generally. Finally, the fund is also currently completing its triennial valuation, which resets the contribution rates payable by employers from next April. I'm pleased to say that it should be possible to reduce contribution rates, though we've been cautious in order to avoid having to increase them again in 3 years' time. However, I'm told that Councillor Elliott has already banked these savings as they affect this authority. So I'm very happy to move these reports.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. And the seconder is Councillor George Leach.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this motion and reaffirm the excellent position the Avon Pension Fund finds itself, both in terms of being fully funded to meet its obligations, in contrast to some other local government pension schemes across the country, and its strong contribution to meeting the Council's climate emergency, by already surpassing its 2030 carbon emissions target. I'd also like to commend the work of officers generally, but especially for their work to date on the move from Brunel to a new pooling partner, LPPI. Well, the government made the decision to move for us. There's still a lot of work to do to make that a reality, and officers have done an exceptional job of working through the variables, details and specifics to make this a success. The amount of hours and diligence put into this should not be underestimated. The Avon Pension Fund is in a good place moving forward, and therefore I'm happy to second this report.
Thank you, Councillor Leach. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Thank you to the officers for this report and for their continued commitment to managing a complex and vital service that many employers and employees have paid into for years. The Pensions Committee work is always thorough and considered. In terms of the pools, I'm very happy that the work continues and that we look forward to a positive way through. In recent months, the process at the committee to decide with our membership how pension contributions should be used in aerospace and defence has been complex. This is an emotive issue for many members who are concerned that their payments are being used to buy weapons that will kill and maim innocent people by countries accused of war crimes. The committee is still to make a decision on this, which, as in all pensions work, has to be based on fiduciary duty. However, fiduciary duty must also always consider long-term investments. And again, I would raise the issue that pension bodies are modelling future returns on a +4 Celsius climate scenario with a 5.6% rate of return. This continues to be troubling, as it is clear that climate scientists have said that +4 Celsius will create global warming that will have severe consequences, and that passing climate tipping points will make it harder, if not impossible, to reverse this process. I continue to question, in my capacity as a committee member, the data from pension specialist Mercer that Avon Pension Fund Committee continues to be supplied by. It would also be appropriate to raise concerns on the investments by pensions in the AI industry. The view of many economists is that AI stock is overvalued and that the market is about to burst, similar to 2008. This is a very serious matter that will affect everyone's pension. Investing in AI will make a few people very rich, but many shareholders invested in AI will, if the bubble bursts, get very poor. I would hope that all in the pensions industry are focused on the impact of that bubble bursting and ask how overvalued stock has been allowed to be bought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any more speakers? If there are no more speakers, I'll return to Councillor Simon. Would you like to address some of the issues raised in the debate, and would you like to summarise?
Thank you, Councillor Wright, for your work on the committee. And I agree that we do need to be cautious about bubbles. We do have some protection in the form of hedging against those bubbles, which helps. And we very much value the diversity of political opinion on the committee, which includes no less than 4 members of the Green Party. So we are held up to account there. So thank you very much for your input, and I'm happy to commend this. But before I do, I think I should place on record my disappointment that the telecoil still isn't working. I think it does really help those of us who use hearing aids to be able to listen directly to what's coming in from the microphones. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. We'll now go to the vote to accept these recommendations. The recommendations have been accepted and the vote was unanimous. We're now going to move on to agenda item 13, which is the Audit Committee 24-25 Annual Report, and the mover is Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to offer my thanks to our committee and supporting officers for the sterling work done over the past year. As Council knows, this committee has specific powers delegated from full Council, and as such, the Corporate Audit Committee is required to report annually. This is the summary of the work undertaken by the committee during the 2024-25 years and is the 20th report to Council since the committee was created. I formally propose that Council note and approve the report. Council has the reports detailing the work, so, as everyone else, I will not be discussing them in depth, but I would like to draw Council's attention to some specific items of importance. This annual report provides Council with assurance that the Audit Committee has carried out its responsibilities effectively during the period May 2025 to April 2026. The Committee plays a vital role in the Council's governance framework, acting as an independent body that supports transparency, accountability and strong financial management. Its work ensures that risks are properly managed, internal controls remain robust and that public resources are safeguarded. Over the past year, the Committee has overseen key areas of financial governance. It has approved the Council and Avon Pension Fund accounts for 23-24, which received an unqualified audit opinion along with very positive VFM conclusion, and reviewed the accounts of Council-owned companies. It scrutinised Treasury management performance and strategy, recommending actions to Council, and received regular updates from external auditors, confirming no major issues. The Committee also endorsed the external audit plan for 24-25. In terms of corporate governance and risk management, the Committee monitored the Council's significant risks through reviews of its corporate risk register, with particular focus on service demand pressures in social care and the dedicated schools grant deficit linked to the renegotiated national government safety valve agreement. We recognise that this significant issue, whilst being common across our nation's local authority, is yet to be resolved by national government and will likely remain high on this committee's agenda for another year. Our committee actively reviewed risk management arrangements with regard to SIL and 106 processes. Based on the findings of our audit teams and the wider risk management framework, having met informally with our planning officers recently, I'm pleased to say that significant improvements are beginning to be seen in reporting and accountability in this Council. Internal audit and counter-fraud reports provided reasonable assurance over the Council's systems of control, with members actively consulted on future audit priorities. Fraud awareness training was also delivered to strengthen oversight. The committee reviewed its own effectiveness in line with SIP for best practice, leading to updated terms of reference approved by Council. Looking ahead, the committee has agreed to a structured work plan for 25-26, covering external and internal Treasury management, risk management and governance updates, with particular focus on high-risk areas. This ensures that the committee continues to provide robust assurance and support good governance across the Council. Finally, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our officers for patiently guiding committee members that always need to learn more. Our independent officer to thank is John Barker, who is vital in helping our understanding of audit along with his lifelong experience of that subject. And finally, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Jeff Ring for his work as interim 151 officer, and to take this opportunity to welcome our new 151 officer, Stuart Donnelly, and wish him the very best in his work for this council. I move this item.
Thank you, Councillor Goodson. Councillor Ross, you are seconding this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this report. I'd like to just reiterate what Councillor Middleton said in terms of thanking all the officers, in terms of on their work on the committee, but also within the council itself. I think we really wanted to highlight that the main point that really concerns us, and probably everybody should do in the council, is the DSG, the Dedicated Schools Grant, which remains a huge challenge both now and into the future, and is probably going to be one thing that will create great consequences down the road, and that won't be of our own doing, because whatever we're doing in the council, we're doing the best that we possibly can. And particularly the lack of SEND reform is really disappointing, quite frankly, from our national government, and I hope that they will make some move on that soon. I see no more to say really on the work that we've done other than what Councillor Middleton said, and so I kind of agree to this report. Second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Are there any speakers? If there are no speakers, Councillor Goodson, do you want to summarise?
Much as I love the sound of my own voice, Chair, I'm happy to move to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to the vote. Two people haven't voted. Oh, okay. Just to announce the result, the recommendations have been adopted, and it was a unanimous vote. Thank you. We are now going to go on to agenda item 14, which is a motion from the Green Group on artificial intelligence. And Councillor Wright, you are moving the motion.
Thank you. Every day in conversations at this council, I hear about the requirement for AI. At recent interviews for senior jobs, to scrutiny to planning applications, this council has decided AI is a time-saving option and the council is going to use it. This motion is therefore necessary to ensure that this new technology is well used, considered and processes put in place to guarantee that AI's use is fair, transparent and in the interest of people. To date, we have seen 65,000 in last year's budget setting for AI, with no ethics policy in place about what AI use looks like and how it will impact the council's officer and, more importantly, residents. The council's role is the well-being of residents, and how we organise this institution needs to ensure that people are our central concern. It is very easy when budgets are tight to reimagine new ways of using technology to save time and money. But what will the impact of those time and money-saving options be? Because I fear that AI has not been created with the well-being of our residents in mind. It has been created by large tech firms whose bottom line is profit. It is interesting to note the response to the Green Group cabinet questions on AI energy use. It says, Microsoft has committed to be carbon negative by 2030, along with removing all the company's historical carbon emissions by 2050. This includes all AI co-pilot usage, along with all our use of Office 365 applications such as Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, etc. However, Microsoft is saying some of this is going to be achieved through carbon removal and reforestation. Carbon is not the only issue. Water usage is massive for data centres, and given the issues we have with the water industry, how will this be regulated or water protected? So it's great to hear, because clearly the carbon impacts of AI are significant, but forgive me if I am a little distrustful of what a major tech company with serious carbon emissions is going to say. How on earth is Baines going to challenge them on their carbon impact going forward when they barely pay tax in this country? Further, head of Google, Sundar Pichai, acknowledged this week the immense energy needs of AI and that he expects slippage in their energy reduction targets. Last year alone, AI used 1.5% of the world's energy consumption. This is climate emergency issue. Beyond AI's energy use are further questions about whose knowledge is privileged when AI is used. AI is based upon algorithms that are put in place by tech companies, and any bias in those is reinforced through all of us using it. AI has been severely criticised for various kinds of bias, racialised, gender, age and political, for instance, and creates a feedback loop that narrows over time and reinforces those biases. Again, in recent questions to the Council, it has been revealed that the Cabinet have got paid for a version of Copilot. This could be problematic. Who controls AI, gets AI to represent their views? Within our community, there are many marginalised and underrepresented groups. How do we ensure that the information and data used through AI considers those voices we'd rarely hear from? How will AI acknowledge the wider community we serve? AI, over time, will therefore use a limited number of cultural contexts encoded through existing biases and therefore exclude marginalised groups and Baines in their knowledge. This is a social justice issue. And what happens once this council escalates new functions and automations using AI? Big tech makes good money from contracts for use of software. But what is the tipping point between officers and software? And if jobs have been cut because of improved productivity through AI, how beholden to big tech will this council contracts be? We have seen recent job losses in this council. I am under no illusions that AI will be used to save officers' time, meaning job cuts. I worry about this because employing people to do good work is not just a council issue. It is a societal issue. But once you have outsourced your jobs to AI, then there are less staff with less knowledge and care for residents. It does not appear to me that AI will be concerned and care for our residents. AI is a profound new world and different to anything humans have done previously. Development leaders in AI give warnings, from Geoffrey Hinton about the pace of change and the impact of AI, to Pichai and his comment on societal disruptions. In recent months, we have seen what happens when technology fails due to electrical failure or cybercrime. What resilience do we have to ensure that this council will be able to maintain its many duties to people who we serve when there are AI systems in place with potential bias, statistical privilege, consuming vast quantities of energy? I look forward to my co-pilot training, but I urge this council to make sure of a robust and clear AI ethics policy that has been formally debated is in place, serving all sections of the community we represent, and they are all supported fairly with this new and evolving technology with a realistic view of the energy needs in a time of climate breakdown. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Helgers, you are seconding this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to second this motion. I should start by declaring an interest of sorts. I have a degree in artificial intelligence. It's from a while ago. So I'm someone who understands both the huge potential of these technologies and the very real risks if they are not used well. And that is exactly why this motion is important. As a group, we absolutely recognise that the Council wants and needs to use AI to improve efficiency and deliver better value for money. Done responsibly, AI can help us be more cost-effective and improve services for residents. But that efficiency has to sit alongside transparency, fairness and environmental responsibility. AI depends on energy-hungry data centres whose environmental impacts are huge. We also know that badly designed systems can entrench bias or undermine staff skills over time. And our residents deserve to know when an AI tool is being used and how their data is handled. What this motion does is simply ask us to put the right guardrails in place now, while the technology is still evolving, so that we maintain public trust and protect both residents and staff. An AI ethics policy is not about stopping progress. It's about ensuring progress happens in a way that aligns with our corporate strategy, our climate commitments and our legal duties. It will give clarity to officers, transparency to the public and confidence to all of us that decisions remain firmly in human hands. This is a practical, forward-looking step that supports innovation while safeguarding the people we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Helgers. There is a Lib Dem Labour amendment which has been circulated. Most people should have seen this. Councillor Elliott, you are proposing this. I was going to get you to propose it first and then ask her.
Yes, sorry. I'm happy to propose the amendment. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Wright, do you accept the amendment?
The Green Group do not accept the amendment.
Okay. Councillor Elliott, would you like to propose the amendment?
Thank you. My amendment to the Green Party motion on artificial intelligence aims to make the motion more constructive, positive and actionable. Artificial intelligence is already shaping the way we live and work. It brings challenges, yes, but also significant opportunities, from improving public services to supporting our environmental goals. The amendment ensures that we recognise both sides of that equation. We're already seeing real benefits in practice. In adult social care, staff using Magic Notes have said, it has made all written work significantly easier, it has saved me so much time and made my practice significantly more efficient, estimating a saving of 10 hours a week. In children's services, the impact has been just as striking. One team member said, for the first time ever, I announced to my team that I am waiting for the next assessment to come in because admin time had dropped by 75%. It's not just social care. In our contact centre, AI is helping summarise calls and generate accurate follow-up notes instantly. Residents are getting quicker responses and staff spend less time on admin and more time on solving problems. These are real, tangible benefits for our community. I also want to emphasise that this isn't starting from scratch. We do already have internal policies and published statements on our website about data protection, ethics and responsible use of technology, including AI. Safeguards are already in place. This amendment is about building on that foundation and making sure our approach to AI is comprehensive and future-proof, but also flexible and responsive to change. That's why I'm very happy to support sending this to policy development and scrutiny for proper policy development work. We often say that we want PDS to do policy as well as scrutiny. This is exactly that kind of opportunity. It's about creating clear standards and a framework that works best for Bath and North East Somerset. When the printing press was introduced in the late 15th century, people worried that it would make people lazy, remove people's jobs and allow people to disseminate dangerous information and generally bring around societal collapse. This sounds quite familiar. The internet has brought us many problems over the last 30 years, social media bubbles, screen obsession and so on. But people's lives are also made immeasurably better through being able to talk easily to friends and family who are on the other side of the world, by being able to collaborate on ideas without having to always be in the same room. All new technologies are open to criticism, but they are tools, sometimes powerful tools, but tools, which can be used by humans for good or ill. And AI is just another one of those. In short, I believe this amendment makes the motion clearer, more balanced, more positive and future-focused, and I'm happy to propose it and commend it to the Council.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson would like to second this.
Yes, happy to second this amendment. So now, credit where it's due, the Greens have brought forward an important topic tonight, but sadly their motion reads less like a vision for the future and more like a warning that Skynet is about to go live somewhere in Baines. Let me reassure everyone, the closest thing we have to a robot uprising in Baines is Magic Notes generating a summary of a meeting. Where the Greens see the opening scenes of the Terminator, we see practical tools helping real people, officers gaining back hours, residents receiving better services, and social care staff getting more time with those who need it. So this amendment is less come with me if you want to live, and more come with me if you want progress. Progress that supports our climate goals, our services and our residents. Progress that actually helps us respond to the climate and ecological emergency rather than freezing in fear of new ideas. AI gives us an opportunity to reduce energy waste, to use predictive systems that support decarbonisation, to make our council greener, fairer and frankly a bit less reliant on paperwork. The Council is already proving what responsible AI looks like. Our officers remain firmly in charge, our data stays safe and our decisions remain human. AI isn't here to replace people, it's here to help them. So yes, we support oversight, transparency and ethics, but we also support ambition, innovation and using the tools of the future to solve the challenges of today. So let's vote for a motion that recognises the risks and the opportunities, one that actually helps us tackle the climate and ecological emergencies we declared. Let's embrace the future. After all, this is just a council meeting, not Judgment Day.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Are there any speakers on the amendment? Councillor Wright, would you like to reply to the debate on the amendment?
Thank you. This is not Judgment Day. The printing press did not use the amount of water or energy that is currently being used by AI to perform simple tasks such as sending an email. The amendments are self-serving and overtly optimistic. Local government should be at the vanguard of ensuring that AI is used appropriately and in support of officers and the public. The Council's amendment note says significant benefits and opportunities for the public good. Where are you demonstrating the public good? The UK's leadership in digital infrastructure seems to be at the forefront of tech economy, according to this. There really does need to be a source, because this is not true, and there is no source for that. 3, while energy use is a factor, AI and digitalisation have potential to drive energy efficiency, decarbonise industry and to support the transition to net zero. Where is this source from? Right now, AI is energy and water intensive, producing copious carbon, as it has been made and has made us reliant on all sorts of systems that could be turned off in a moment, impacting health, finance and security. 4, reducing environmental impact from renewables. The amount of water and energy used by AI is significant and will result in vast consumptions from the energy grid, which is already stretched, with parts of the UK presently in drought. The Green Group are really concerned that the use of AI may erode human cognition over time. The Lib Dems and Labour Group have changed the motion without a source to AI can enhance human decision-making, improve learning outcomes and free people from repetitive work, allowing more creative, empathetic and community-focused tasks. In The Guardian alone today, students in Staffordshire who have been taught using AI say they have been robbed of knowledge and enjoyment after a course taught in part by AI. The course had been done in the cheapest way possible and failed its students and not using lecturers. AI is actively putting people out of work. We are not saying there are not some benefits, but there does need to be an ethical framework in place to ensure public good. In the process of raising this motion, the motion went to Democratic Services. They should have flagged that Baines has in place an AI policy. However, on looking at this policy, it does not refer to the following points raised by the Green Group. AI impact on Baines residents, environmental impact, jobs and cognitive ability. It appears that the existing Baines AI policy has been written by AI, but this policy has not come to any councillors for scrutiny. How have all staff been trained on AI and cybersecurity? Training on Copilot is optional. In the words of Geoffrey Hinton, in his Nobel acceptance speech, warned humanity about AI and its destructive impacts. I am disappointed that the Lib Dems and the Labour Group know so much more than Hinton about this technology and its uses, and that they seem willing in this new amended AI motion to guarantee that no harm will come from AI for the people and for the planet. Thank you.
Councillor Moss, you raised your hand. We are just about to vote on the amendment, so do you want to keep your... Yeah, thank you. We are now going to vote on the amendment. Is there anyone else who would like to vote? The amendment is now passed and it is now part of the substantive motion. So would anyone like to speak on this substantive motion? Robin Moss.
Thank you very much. It's an interesting discussion to have because the change of technology and changes in technology is something that I'm sure everyone around this chamber has seen over the years, certainly over the last generation or so. If you look at everything from word processing through to social media and now AI, clearly massive changes over our lifetimes. And I know there's been quotes from Nobel Peace Prize winners So I feel justified in quoting from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And Douglas Adams made his views on change quite clear. That anything that existed before you were born is normal. Anything that changes between the ages of 15 and 35, anything invented during this time is exciting, new, revolutionary, and I could make some money out of it. Anything that is invented after the age of 35, and I'm looking around this chamber with some trepidation, is against the natural order of things and ought to be banned. And there is the danger, of course, of because it's new, because it's change, therefore we should oppose it. And I think I'm right in saying, Joanna, when you opposed the amendment, you accused the Lib Dem and the Labour groups of being overtly optimistic, or possibly over-optimistic. And I'll plead guilty, because it is technology. It is a tool in order to hopefully make life better for all of us. That comes with risks. You can look at social media, for example, and when new technology is always introduced, there are always those who worry that the consequences are always going to be negative. It is our responsibility as individuals, but also as a council, how we use this, to use a new tool to make things better for our residents, for our staff, and for ourselves. So I'd say that someone who is slightly over the age of 35, that this is not something against the natural order of things. It is not something that should be banned, but it is a technology that should be embraced, but it should be embraced with wide open eyes to how we can use this well and how we can guard against the negative consequences. And I think the amendment is about being optimistic about opportunities that happen with new technology, not being negative and pessimistic. And that's why I'm supporting the amended resolution.
Thank you. Councillor Mansell.
Thank you. The Labour Group supports the amended motion on artificial intelligence, not just because of its innovation, but because of its potential to transform lives, especially for disabled residents. AI is not just about efficiency or automation, it's about accessibility, dignity and independence. Across the UK, and here in Bath and North East Somerset, disabled people are already benefiting from AI in powerful ways. AI-driven speech-to-text tools are helping those with hearing impairments communicate more freely. Voice assistants are enabling people with limited mobility to control their homes, access information and connect with services, all without lifting a finger. And for those with visual impairments, apps like Seeing AI can describe surroundings, read out text and even identify people and objects. These aren't futuristic ideas, they're real tools in use today, breaking down barriers that have existed for decades. Surely this is where we want to go if we are to fulfil the Council's principle of improving people's lives. In education, AI is helping children with learning difficulties across personalised support. In the workplace, it's levelling the playing field, automating repetitive tasks, assisting with communication and enabling more inclusive employment. At Southmead Hospital, it's used for robotic-assisted surgery for a range of complex procedures, including prostate, bladder and gynecological cancers, as well as endometriosis. This technology allows for greater precision, less invasive surgery, reduced blood loss, and the results are shorter hospital stays and quicker patient recovery times. This is just one use. But with these benefits come responsibilities. We must ensure that AI is developed and deployed ethically, with transparency, with safeguards, and with the voices of disabled people at the table. We must have co-design to ensure lived experience shapes this to get the best from it. That's why this motion's call for an AI ethics policy is so important. It ensures that as we innovate, we also protect. Let's be clear, AI is not a replacement for human care, judgment or empathy, but it is a tool, a powerful one, that can help us build a more inclusive, accessible and equitable society. This is in line with the Equality Act 2010 and the social model of disability. By supporting the amended motion, we're not just embracing technology, we're embracing the people it can empower. And I would urge that disabled people are included in any discussions when policies are being formulated. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Treeby.
Thank you, Chair. I believe an AI policy and its effective governance is important, and its scrutiny and development an essential activity for this Council. AI brings many opportunities and will revolutionise many aspects of society, its adaptability and wide applicability transforming how we process and consume data. This adaptability is one of the drivers for controls regarding its usage. It can analyse vast reams of data and make complex decisions from that analysis. But it's not infallible, and it is important that the right controls are in place to ensure our residents are treated fairly when incorrect decisions are made. It is also important that the data are made available to AI is controlled. GDPR legislation applies and imposes several obligations, and if the data is processed abroad, we risk foreign legislation such as the Patriot Act coming into scope. As members, we owe it to our residents to make sure suitable controls are in place. Therefore, I thoroughly support the scrutiny and development of this policy coming to PDS, and as this rapidly maturing field continues to develop, is subjected to ongoing review. Thank you.
Are there any more speakers on the substantive motion? If there aren't any more speakers, Councillor Wright, would you like to reply to the debate on the substantive motion?
Yes.
Then, Councillor Elliott, you can sum up. So, firstly, Councillor Wright, would you like to respond to the debate on the substantive motion?
I'm delighted with the comments today because clearly we are banning AI. We are in the council working in Southmead Hospital to use AI. That is not what we said in this motion in any shape or form. What we have said quite clearly is that there is a huge environmental impact. There are impacts on jobs and cognitive ability, and that AI is being used in different forms within the council that Baines residents don't quite know about. And this is a piece of work that is about Baines Council and us having stringent policy on taking this new, profound and very different technology forward for the future. And that is what that piece of work was asking. So I am disappointed, and once again I will say, Geoffrey Hinton, in his Nobel acceptance speech, warned humanity about AI and its destructive impact. The Liberal Democrat group and the Labour group are now fully in charge of AI policy in this council, and taking it forward, I do hope that they make sure of the best for everyone. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott, it's now your turn to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Wright raises concerns about misuse of AI, and I accept that there are some legitimate concerns about the misuse of AI. I think that she's mischaracterised the position of the Lib Dem and Labour groups as dismissing those concerns. The amended motion requests that the PDS panel takes a serious look at what we might need in an AI policy to build on the policies that we already have. It simply tries to take a more positive attitude towards what that AI policy might look like. I completely support the use of PDS panels to properly help develop policy. We often talk about the fact that PDS is not utilised in that way enough, and it seems to me that this is a very sensible use of PDS for the development of important policy in a balanced, measured way, giving it the proper time it deserves. So I'm very happy to move to the vote.
The substantive motion from the Lib Dem and Labour has now been passed. Thank you. We are now going to move to agenda item 16, which is a motion from the Lib Dem group about SEND profits. Councillor May, you're going to propose this.
Chair, thank you. Colleagues, this motion is about the principle that for-profit companies should not be making excessive profits from providing services to vulnerable children. It looks at the delivery of services for children in both social care and education, and we're calling on the government to step in urgently to curb such profiteering. A lack of regulation means private service providers have been allowed to run amok in a supplier-driven marketplace. Increasingly, the charges for these vital services have escalated dramatically. Over the past few years, our children's services budget has grown considerably by nearly 50%. This puts substantial further pressures on other local authority services that we provide for the public, which makes our motion directly relevant to the Council as a whole. I am proud, as I'm sure my colleagues are, that in Bath and North East Somerset, this Council has, across all political parties, shown kindness and support for vulnerable, disadvantaged children. We've demonstrated this in inspection regimes. The quality of our services has been rated as good to outstanding in all elements of our delivery. Alternative not-for-profit service provision options could possibly reduce costs by about 20%. It has been reported nationally there has been a 70% increase in costs in the last 5 years because 83% of children's homes, 2,284, are privately owned. Only 4% are operated as not-for-profit organisations. Private providers are alleged to have operating margins of 22%. Many children's homes are located out of our area, placing additional pressures on social workers who travel to reach these sites. In education, our most vulnerable children receive education healthcare plans, EHCPs. We have approximately 2,500 children with these plans. Of these, 125 children are in out-of-area day placements and 37 are in residential provision, mainly related to autism and social and emotional mental health needs. We have been waiting for the government to agree our submission bid to build a 120-place free school on the Culverhage site in Bath. This would enable us to provide local children and young people with special education needs support in our community, drastically reducing travel costs. Our costs of our out-of-area providers is £10.6 million in education, and the associated cost of taxis is something in the order of £1.5 million. There is a ticking time bomb of national debt resend, estimated at £5 billion, with a risk of 65% of local authorities requiring Section 114 notices. That would effectively make them go bust if this was brought back into the accounts of those authorities. The national system is broken. The demand for and complexity of these services remains high, and the promised government white paper has been put off until next year. Social care operates with 4 stages: early help, children in need, children protection plans, and looked after children, and we have 230 children in that last category. Our residential private providers cost in the order of £18.9 million, with a total placement or average cost of £9,174 per week in residential care for just 27 children. In summing up, this proposal is very relevant to Bath and North East Somerset Council as a whole. This is not a criticism of our commissioning of services or the quality of the providers we use. It's not to say that there is no role for the private sector in service delivery, but we need regulation to make sure that's fair. The Liberal Democrats are firmly committed to looking after the most vulnerable in our communities. That's both adults and children. Making profits from the care of vulnerable children is deeply objectionable. We need to look for alternative, local, not-for-profit solutions. Our message to government is loud and clear. This sector has to change. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I believe, Councillor Harding, you are going to second this.
Thank you, Chair. Our rivers and coasts are covered in excrement, and the water companies are sending billions of pounds to their investors overseas. Has privatisation of water industry worked for people? We have the most expensive energy in Europe, hobbling industry and leaving millions in fuel poverty. Has privatisation of the energy industry worked for the public? We have the most expensive, unreliable rail journeys in Europe. Has privatisation of the railways worked? The NHS accumulated £80 billion worth of PFI debt for just £13 billion in assets. Has private financing in the NHS really worked? If you're in a vulnerable situation in the UK because of your age, personal circumstances, violent crime or ill health, there is a strong chance that somebody, most likely an offshore private equity investor, will be making a profit out of you. We are being fleeced by hedge funds, private equity and tax-dodging rapacious investors. Neoliberal rip-off Britain. This effect is very starkly seen by councils and some of our services paid for by the public. The majority of the UK's children's homes are now in private hands, many run by companies backed by overseas investment giants and sovereign wealth funds. For instance, the 15 largest children's home providers in the UK make an average profit of around 25%. Private independent fostering agencies have shown consistently high profit margins, averaging around 19%. Much of this outsourcing has taken place on the quiet, described euphemistically as public sector reform. And time again, the supposed benefits of outsourcing, competition and private sector efficiencies have been shown to deliver less quality. According to the Competition and Markets Authorities, the UK has sleepwalked into a dysfunctional market for children's social care, with local authorities forced to pay excessive fees for privately run services that often fail to meet the needs of vulnerable children. At the end of the day, profit-making companies are there to serve the interests of their owners and investors, and not children, certainly not staff, and certainly not councils. To put children's social care back on a sustainable footing, we need to put power back in the hands of councils so they can provide care services themselves. I would hope that no one here thinks children are a commodity. I second this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Harding. Councillor Hountons.
Thank you, Chair. I speak today both as a councillor and as a parent of a special educational needs child. Through that experience, I've come to know many other SEND families in Baines, and I know just how hard they are working to secure the support their children need. So I welcome the overall intention behind this motion to ensure public money supports children, not excessive profits. That principle is absolutely right. But we also need to be honest about the local context. Profiteering by private equity-backed providers is not the main issue facing Baines families with children with SEND. The far bigger challenge is the lack of support to get an educational health and care plan in place and the availability of local specialist provision. Families with SEND children are struggling not because companies are making huge profits, but because there simply aren't enough specialist places and not enough timely support. This motion raises the issue of profit caps, but it's worth asking how many private equity-backed SEND providers actually provide support for children in Baines, and what profits are they making locally. In 2024, only 25% of education, health and care plans were issued within the legal 20-week time frame, compared to the national average of 50%. And in one case recently, upheld by the local government and social care ombudsman, the council failed to complete an EHCP needs assessment within statutory timescales, causing significant distress to the child and family. So while I welcome the spirit of this motion, I hope we can also keep our focus firmly on what matters most to our families here, reducing delays, providing more localist specialists and alternative provision, and delivering the support that children need to thrive. Thank you.
Councillor Moss.
Thank you very much. Very pleased and relieved to see this motion here. I know that the Liberal Democrats have been circulating this around the country, and I thought we'd been left out. So very pleased to see it's eventually arrived at Bath and North East Somerset. More seriously, happy to support this motion and the points it makes. But please be assured that as members of local government, irrespective of our political parties, we are lobbying central government about social care and have done for many years. And it's right that we should do that, because we have had a social care crisis for decades now. It's 2011, for example, when the Dilnot report was published into adult social care. Don't need to remind you that that was when there was the coalition government in place. So there is central government grief to be shared all around when it comes to the issue of social care, and particularly children's social care. And I know from private discussions, and no particular secret, I think, between Labour local government and Labour national government, there is real concern and a desire on behalf of local government to see these reforms in place, and there's a real desire in central government as well to actually see reforms in place, just simply because we have had this crisis. It is costing an absolute fortune, and then reform needs to be there. If it was simple, reforms would have been in place a long time ago. So I think we can be assured that this is a priority for central government. But it also needs to be a priority for us locally as well. I know there's reference made to Culverhay and the need to bring Culverhay onto stream, and that's something I've been having discussions nationally about how that should be brought into place. We need to ensure that when we produce contracts, or when we create contracts for a service to be provided, we need to do it in such a way that we enable small local businesses and cooperative models to be successful, and not just funded hedge funds with the money to put bids into place. So the Labour Group will be supporting this motion, but we need to make sure we look at ourselves as well as to continue to lobby central government about these much-needed reforms.
Thank you, Chair. I strongly support the motion on profiteering in children's provision. At its heart, this is about safeguarding the welfare of our most vulnerable residents. When profit becomes the driving force, quality and care suffer. Families deserve services built on trust, not on margin. Whilst SEND and social care provision are still public sector responsibilities, decades of hollowing out of local council services means that large swathes of our provision are now, in practice, in private hands. When, as Cabinet Member for Resources, I first started to investigate why the Children's Services budget was so difficult to manage, I was shocked to discover that the top 10 most expensive children's care placements were costing us a total of £8 million. That's on a budget of roughly £40 million for children's services. So 20% of the total budget for the service being spent on placements for 10 children. Excessive profiteering diverts resources away from children and into private gain. That is unacceptable. If the government were to take action that this motion suggests, all residents of Bath and North East Somerset would benefit. It would stabilise the long-term pressure being placed on the council's budget and free up more room for other council activity and services. We should be able to reinvest surpluses into improving standards, training staff, ensuring equitable access for every child, ensuring timely services for children in SEND services, in care services. Public provision should prioritise care over profit always. I urge members to back this motion and send a clear message. Children's welfare should not be for sale.
Thank you. Councillor Vaughan.
Thank you. The situation we find ourselves in relation to SEND services is a consequence of over-reliance on the market to provide services for children with special educational needs. In this instance, market forces have not driven down costs, improved quality, or increased choice. Instead, a small number of for-profit companies have been allowed to dominate the market, charging inflated prices and generating excessive profits. This is not acceptable, and it is threatening the stability of councils that are responsible for these services. We must return to a place where SEND services are affordable and effective, where we have more influence over what is provided, where we can be confident of quality, and we know that we are getting value for money. We have made progress on this in adult social care by taking some services back in-house, developing new services to fill gaps in provision, and through rigorous commissioning practices. The measures recommended in this motion are needed to ensure that our children's services funding is used to achieve the best outcomes for all our children and young people, and I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mansell.
Chair, councillors, on the 3rd of November, families from 97 local authority areas gathered for Every Pair Tells a Story. Outside this Guildhall, families laid out children's shoes, each tagged with a personal story. These shoes represented thousands of children still waiting for the support they need and deserve. It was a powerful reminder of the human cost of delay and neglect. It was an honour to stand with them and support their call for urgent action. These families of children with special educational needs and disabilities are facing a crisis, not just of care, but of conscience. In Baines, we currently support over 1,000 children and young people with educational, health and care plans, around 4% of a child population. Yet only 68% of new EHCPs are processed within the statutory 20-week time frame. These delays aren't just administrative. They are lost months of development, missed opportunities and immense strain on families. And while our families wait, private SEND providers, many backed by private equity firms, are making tens of millions in profit annually. The House of Commons Library reveals that some private providers report profit margins exceeding 20%, with annual profits in the tens of millions. This surely should raise concerns that public funds intended to support vulnerable children are instead generating shareholder returns. Local authorities like ours are legally obliged to place children in independent special schools due to a shortage of state-funded places, and these placements are often necessary, but they come at a cost that is unsustainable and unjust. Due to a shortage of state-funded specialist placements in independent schools, these can cost between £60,000 and £350,000 per child annually, way and above the £10,000 to £30,000 typical of state provision, contributing to a growing financial crisis for councils. My mother would have called it daylight robbery. I'd call it something else. Now, the government has promised £700 million, but it needs to go in the right places. And nationally, political parties have proposed an 8% cap of profits for private providers. The government has acknowledged this issue and is exploring similar caps in children's social care. And if a letter's being written, which we're hopefully going to agree tonight, we need to include this in the strongest of terms in that letter. Locally, we also need to be investigating how we can prioritise non-profit and social enterprise models that reinvest in children, not in dividends. We must invest in expanding our own specialist provision.
Bring your comments to
and let's make sure every child in Bath and North East Somerset gets the education, care and dignity they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I'd like to call Councillor Heathcote.
Thank you, Chair. While I'll be supporting this motion, I have a very unique insight into this sort of area, being married to a social worker who works with children in care for a different local authority. And this is something that I've raised in previous meetings with a £4.78 million overspend, and £2.7 million of that within Bath and North East Somerset Council was for 8 residential placements. Now, my speech is going to be very short and sweet because on the basis of, in this room, we are all corporate parents. So on the basis of being a bit controversial, I'm looking around this room to see how many of you, as councillors, I see at corporate parenting panel. Thank you.
I'd like next to call Councillor Jackson. Mr. Jackson.
Being able to see very well. I've been reflecting on what the previous speakers have said in support of the motion, and I feel well, I agree with what they say to start with, but I feel very deeply that it's utterly abhorrent the way companies are able to profit out of the children's misery and difficulties and special needs. And I was thinking about the way we hear constantly the NHS is broken, the justice system is broken, the childcare system is broken. Well, really, it's none of those things. It's the fact that human beings are broken and can't manage to get together to remedy these evils. And I'm so pleased the way we're coming together across party lines and without making this a big political issue. And that if we are, I feel strongly that if we are united in our efforts to improve things, we'll not only see our own provision of services, especially I hope SEND, improve and become a marker for excellence, but we'll have a wider influence and be able to persuade the powers that be that they should be a little more generous, and combined with our own economies and taking things in-house, we may be able to square the circle. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tim Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, firstly, this might surprise you, but I have huge confidence in this government to reduce the profits, because they haven't everything else. I'm sure they will this as well. All joking apart, and I think it's very important that we get this right for the kids, because they said we're all corporate parents. And children's and social care, the cost of it, for years, have just, say, held councils back, but restricted us on what else we can do because of the extortionate cost. Now, the other issue, and please don't twist my words, because I'm as concerned about children as everybody else. But at the moment, you've got profit-making firms that are running the children's homes, and they're not going to do it unless they make profit. So we have to find an alternative. So I just wonder, at the moment, Paul, and you're summing up, if you could explain what that alternative might be if you took the profit-making people away now. This doesn't mean I don't disagree with what you're saying, or I don't agree with what you're saying, I should say. It's just, I say the most important thing for us is the children, so we can't leave them without service.
Thank you. Councillor Dina Romero.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to support this paper, as it's not right that profiteering on the back of vulnerable children and young people has been encouraged over years. Privatisation of such services feels very wrong. It may not be in the best interest of children, and it is definitely not good for local council budgets. Like Councillor Mansell, I would prefer the council to invest in local, not-for-profit specialist provision. I understand that specialist provision is, by its nature, costly, and that there is not enough provision. What there is much needed, but excess profit-making off of councils is unacceptable and should be stopped. It is disappointing that the government's white paper on SEND reforms has been delayed until the new year, and I hope that this long-awaited paper will have good news for children and young people on this issue and on many other matters affecting children and young people within our authority. I hope too that the government will finally give the green light to the new provision of SEND and AP places within our local area. I hope that the government takes decisive action in the same way they appear to have done over ticket touts and stop such extreme profiteering. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Romero. Are there any more speakers? If there aren't any more, Councillor May, would you like to reply to the debate? You've already been directed one or two ways, and then would you summarise, please?
Thank you, Chair. I've been scribbling away, so if I miss any points made, then I'll give my apologies. What I hoped in raising this motion on behalf of the Liberal Democrats was that we would actually get agreement across the chamber, because we do all care about children, and it's really important that we actually get any money that we're spending on those children spent in the best way possible. And because of the way the marketplace has developed, we're in the situation where we are having to pay more money than we probably need to in terms of that care that we all really value, I think. I made the point in the start about the fact that the education healthcare plan SEND system is broken. The simple fact is, over a long period of time, the funding and the needs have not been running in parallel. And the end result has been that the local authorities across the country have got that accumulated debt of £5 billion, which is not on the books of local authorities at the moment, but it's real money. And even if we get a system moving forward when the white paper is brought forward, that would cover the cost of the SEND costs, it would not actually then cover the accumulated debt that's with local authorities. So it's a major issue for the government moving forward, and it's been an issue that's been there for quite a long period of time. In terms of our standards, we're expecting to have an inspection of SEND next year, and under those circumstances, if we find any areas that have got to be dealt with effectively, or we're not carrying them out effectively, we'll take whatever steps are necessary to make sure that that's actually put right. Taking your point about this being a standard Lib Dem motion, I've got to say that we consulted widely on the motion, and we actually widened it to not just be SEND, but also social care. Because if you actually put together the costs of SEND and social care, we're talking about £29 million in children's services is spent with private providers, and that's a large sum of money on very, very few children. So it is important, I think, that we actually don't just say this is a standard item, it's something that we all care about. I think it's right to lobby the government, because the delay in the white paper has really left that uncertainty over the heads of children and local authorities. Culver Hay, I absolutely agree that we should be engaging with small businesses locally, and that's a very valid point, so thank you for that. The issue around the adult social care, bringing adult social care back in-house has helped us because we've always had children's social care in-house. I'll be ever so quick. Okay. But there was a long series of questions, I'm sorry, Chair. And children do become adults, let's hope, so that's important. In terms of the white paper, it's revenue money, corporate parents, we will be picking up that point, Councillor Heathcote, and explain the alternatives. I'll deal with that separately because I've run out of time, Councillor Warren. But I did say quite clearly it was about not-for-profit organisations encouraged to actually bring forward plans for doing that locally for us, and we're progressing that through the current Chief Executive. He's nodding. Sorry, Chair.
I think everybody...
Oh, sorry, I was moving 14, 15, 16 and 17 on the resolution.
Okay, I think everyone will bear with me for allowing you that extra time as you wanted to reply comprehensively to what was raised. We are now going to go to the vote. Thank you for your vote. The motion has been passed and it was unanimous. Thank you. We are now going to go on to agenda item 17, question statements from councillors. First of all, a question and answer document has been circulated. Everybody should have received that. Next, I'd like to invite Councillor Helgers to make her statement.
Thank you, Chair. I want to speak today about the informal consultation on the residents' parking zone in Lambridge and the issues with the process that have caused real concern in our community. First, the public meeting. The date was set by officers without any discussion with us as ward councillors, and because of this, Joanna, Councillor Wright, could not attend at all due to booked annual leave, and I could only attend for an hour and a half due to caring responsibilities. Residents were understandably disappointed, but this was not of our choosing and it should not have happened. We also need to highlight the lack of direct engagement with local businesses. We supplied officers with contact details for every business and venue, expecting meaningful conversations about their specific operational needs. Instead, aside from a leaflet drop and informal meetings with one business owner, no meetings took place. Businesses are rightfully worried about viability, staff access and customer impact, and they deserve proper engagement from the outset. Similarly, we as ward councillors were not meaningfully engaged on the proposed number and location of dual use and limited waiting bays, which are critical issues to the success of an RPZ, as seen in Oldfield Park. In the middle of the consultation, the Liberal Democrats distributed letters, both in shops and door-to-door, containing misinformation about RPZs and about our role as ward councillors. The letter claimed, and I quote, "RPZs are effective on specific streets, but when applied across a large area, they often result in residents paying for a solution to a problem they didn't have. This contradicts the Council's own strategic direction, the journey to net zero, the residents' parking scheme strategy and the movement strategy, which is currently under consultation." The letter also claimed the current scheme does not meet the needs of the community, when the entire purpose of the informal consultation was to ask the community what their needs are. Statements like this are misled residents and undermine the hard work of officers during a critical stage. We have been told by Cabinet Member Councillor Joel Hurst that this letter was not approved by him. We asked him and the Leader of Council to retract it and apologise for the misinformation, but we have received no response today. It is especially concerning given that it contradicts Lever 8 of the movement strategy, which is up for consultation right now. Let me be clear, an RPZ consultation is not driven by one or two individuals. Officers, cabinet members and ward councillors work together, supported by a strategic business case. Residents deserve clarity on that, not political point scoring. Councillor Wright and I have supported the informal consultation professionally, stayed neutral and listened carefully to residents. That is our role, and we are waiting for the outcome before forming any view. Residents deserve honesty, respect and a process that they can trust. Thank you.
Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Guy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Helgis. You seem to be saying that you haven't been engaged in working up the RPZ that you proposed in the first place. However, I've seen a lengthy exchange between you and officers starting in June in which you didn't raise any of the issues you've just mentioned. Why have you waited till now to do that?
We have raised our issues before. Thank you.
Okay, I think you received your answer there, Councillor Guy. Any other factual questions from group leaders? Right, we'll now move on to Councillor Jackson to make her statement.
Thank you, Councillor Brillstone too. As it's running late, and as one can sleep in the council chamber just as easily as on a bus, I will just draw your attention to some of the more important points concerning the question and answer that I received from Cabinet on the 13th of November and the responses concerning a proposed hospital flyer bus service. I asked, are the Cabinet members aware that access to the Royal United Hospital is very difficult, even for seasoned patients who are familiar with the parking arrangements in the vicinity? Are they prepared to work in partnership with WECA to change this and to introduce an enhanced bus service from the Odd Down Park and Ride direct to the IUH and back, and from Keynsham, for patients coming from Keynsham, from the Newbridge Park and Ride to the IUH? And I pointed out that there would also need to be work done with Wiltshire and other authorities, as well as with the Hospital Trust, because the approximately 40% of the patients come from other regions. I'm thinking of these patients, including one from Cornwall I met yesterday. There's nothing at the railway station to indicate that the 20C will take them direct to the RUH via the university. Signing and information is at a deficit, in my opinion, and Baines could do something about this. The RUH has become a national centre of excellence in many disciplines, but access to it is way below what one would expect to have from available for a hospital of this importance. The reason is that there is no dedicated direct service, and such buses as there are timetabled to send 3 through the RUH, usually around the top of the hour, and then nothing for 30 minutes because the following buses get delayed. Part of the problem is the double parking in Western Village and on Bloomfield Road in Odd Down, so that the buses cannot get through easily, but that's a separate matter for highways to sort out. The hospital flyer bus would leave the park and ride, turn at the Red Lion onto the Froome Road, and then head towards the crematorium, turn right down through Southdown, and get to the RUH that way. The 42 bus route was not the same, and the buses were continually getting stuck in Twerton. And because it's not the same as the previous 42 bus service,
Councillor Jackson,
it ought
can
to
you
be liable to...
bring your comments? Can you bring your
Sorry,
comments?
I'm not able to watch two things at once. I can't even see the screen. It's gone red. Well, can I just very briefly sum up that I want to see a definite and specific commitment to improving the service in partnership with WECA and the Hospital Trust, and I want it to start now and not some months or years down the road.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Getting to the RUH from the Somer Valley is hard enough when you're fit and able-bodied, but when you're unwell and vulnerable, it becomes a real challenge. Do you feel that the Cabinet and WECA understand these specific challenges and are actually listening to your concerns?
I'm sure they're listening because I can shout fairly loud, but whether they're going to do anything and whether it will take a petition, I don't know, but I'm not giving up.
Councillor Guy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Future role that I have is chairing the WECA Transport Board, which starts next year. Would you be willing to share your thoughts with me on that board so we can look at it in depth for solutions? I'm happy to offer that invitation to you.
Well, I was wondering, Councillor Guy, if you're going to be having a meeting with WECA, I believe, quite shortly in the new year, I could come along as an observer.
Very happy. Any more factual questions from group leaders? Thank you. We'll now go on to Councillor Box to make a statement. Councillor Wright, how could I forget you? I'm so sorry to skip over you. Councillor Wright, would you like to make a statement, please?
Thank you. Baines, led by the Lib Dems, is presently involved in consulting on the movement strategy for Bath with Cabinet Member for Sustainable Transport, stating the movement strategy is a long-term blueprint that reimagines how we use and view our streets. It aims to rebalance the city's transport network to better serve residents, businesses and visitors while supporting our climate goals. In the movement strategy consultation, it proposes Lever 8, managing car parking more effectively. We will expand resident parking zones, RPZs, and develop a parking strategy to reduce car dependency. In 2002, this Lib Dem administration decided to introduce the Snow Hill and Walcott RPZ 27, which also included streets in Lambridge. Emails from myself and former Lambridge councillor Rob Appleyard clearly stated that, given the high level of resistance, it does raise the question why this is proceeding. The issue of displacement to any changes proposed and the effect on Lambridge ward have not been recognised will only go to increase the pressure on residents parking in the ward. RPZ 27 went ahead anyway, and several Lambridge streets were included. Following the introduction of RPZ 27, Baines Lib Dem administration failed to help on the impact of building RPZ car spaces on roads not wide enough to accommodate them, and then had to undo them, and streets where people lived but were not given permits. As ward councillors, we repeatedly sought help for residents. In December 2023, we received an email from the Cabinet member. To progress forward with the new RPZ will take time. There are a few areas that are highlighting requests for RPZs with limited officer capacity in the LN team. An email was then sent by an officer to a Walcott councillor in September 2024, which fortunately was forwarded to Lambridge councillors on proposals to again enlarge RPZ 27. In February 25, a local Lambridge resident received an email, but not the Lambridge ward councillors, that said the council's 25-26 budget, which was confirmed yesterday evening, includes funding for taking forward proposals for a residents' parking zone in the Lambridge ward. Saskia and I are therefore dismayed that an informal RPZ consultation process led at all stages by this Lib Dem administration is now being challenged by the James Street West Lib Dem team. Do they support the leadership in their aims to rebalance the city's transport network to better serve residents, businesses and visitors while supporting our climate goals? Could this be political posturing with no moral compass? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Thank you, Councillor Wright. We'll now go on to Anna Box. Councillor Box, please.
Thank you, Chair. I will try and keep this brief as we are quite late into the meeting. And I just want to say I'm very thankful for the residents that came from the Chew Valley to speak so elegantly, and my colleagues next to me who will do a much better job in a minute to talk about the bus services in the Chew Valley. So one of the residents mentioned the Big Bus survey this year, which I do urge you to give a little read. And it did state that 40% of the residents use this X91 bus and 99 for leisure. And I will never stand in this chamber and say that buses are not vital for work or important daily activities or weekly activities like food shopping, but my point is a slightly different one, and it's about joy. And without joy, I think we're failing as a species. And leisure isn't just, indulgent frolicking or having a few beers with your mates, or as we're in Bath, is that Dom Perignon? I'm not sure. Had to look that up. But it's about exercise, social interaction, social mobility, and to combat isolation. So research shows time and time again that loneliness and isolation are increased risks factor for all-cause mortality in all ages. That's fun, isn't it? So our duty as public servants is to look after our residents. And I therefore urge you to continue to lobby WECA for rural bus funding, as it's a high priority for us. They are socially necessary, and I urge you to continue with your good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Box. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? No. Thank you. We'll now go on to Councillor David Harding to make a statement.
Thank you, Chair. The Chew Valley is the worst connected part of Baines in terms of public transport. Access to public transport affects the functionality of the rural economy and leads to isolation for those without access to private transport. The consequences are reflected in the social and economic structure of the area, with, for example, younger people who are seeking work, moving away from friends and family. I use both the bus routes in the Chew Valley, the X91 and the 99. Although not nearly as frequent as Councillor Box, it must be said. And I use it to go to hospital appointments in Bristol, meet with friends in Bristol, have a cider or two in the ward with my ward colleague. Kids use the buses to go to school. People go shopping in Chew Magna or in Imperial Park in Bristol, or they go to the doctors in Chew Stoke. And they use the buses to catch trains at Temple Meads. Our buses get vulnerable people out of their homes every day. As these bus routes become more and more established, their use is only increasing. Our bus community interest company team, Jackie, Elaine and Phil, who spoke here tonight, have worked tirelessly with the Big Lemon to bring bus services to the area and to build up these services. Community engagement and data gathering have been at the heart of this, including survey work from nearly 1,000 residents. This information just doesn't exist for other rural routes in our authority. WECA and Baines should be holding up this work as an exemplar of how to test a route, how to evolve it to customer demand, and how to build numbers through ongoing active engagement in a rural setting. Normally, a 3 to 5 year testing period would be offered for new routes, but funding runs out in March for the X91 and the 99. So I'd like to ask Councillor Guy to help set up a meeting with the Chew Valley Sustainable Transport Partnership and WECA officers, and hope that the importance of the social value of the services in the Chew Valley can be considered fully by Bath and North East Somerset Council, WECA, and not just the raw counts of bums on seats. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Guy?
Not a factual question, Chair, but just happy to say yes, more than happy to do that request.
At least to ask a question.
Thank you. Excellent presentations from everybody on the West Local buses. Worth pointing out, I guess, that there are others of us who are deeply concerned about our bus services, and we hope that Kevin would be able to include the appropriate people representing those bus services, those West Local bus services, which are equally vital to our residents and upon which we wish to build.
Thank you. Are there any other factual questions?
Am I supposed to answer that? It wasn't a factual question to me, was it?
Perhaps not quite a factual question. It was an invitation, I think, but however, an invitation has been made, so not quite a factual question, so excuse me for not picking that up, but it's probably quite important it happened. Finally, Councillor McComb, would you like to make your statement?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to echo the comments from David and Anna. The X91 and 99 Chew Valley Explorer services are not simply bus routes, they are vital arteries for our communities. They connect villages across the Chew Valley directly to Bristol and ensure residents can reach vital amenities. For young people, these services provide access to school. For older residents, they safeguard independence and reduce isolation. And for all of us, they support cleaner air, less congestion, and a more sustainable future. Every journey strengthens our local economy, keeps our communities connected, and helps protect the beautiful environment we call home. That is why these services are not a luxury, they are essential. The risk of losing funding for these routes would be devastating. It would cut off lifelines for many residents, undermine our sustainability goals, and weaken the fabric of community life across the Chew Valley. We must press WECA to keep the funding in place, to recognise the essential role these services play, and to ensure they remain at the heart of Chew Valley life. Thank you.
Thank you. Any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Tim Warren.
Yeah, I agree with you about everything you said about the buses, all three of you. You must have found it very disappointing that it was your own Liberal Democrat group that cut all the subsidies in North East Somerset whilst leaving the ones in Bath.
Can we not have remarks like that across the floor, please, Councillor Guy? Councillor McCool, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit too new to answer that one, so I'll pass it over to my colleagues.
It's obviously disappointing for anybody whose bus services are cut, but we know that actually most of the money was cut from WECA.
And I think we'll leave it at that. Councillor Walker.
Can I defer my factual question to Councillor Heathcote, please?
Real brief question. All three of you have mentioned vulnerable people within your local wards. What percentage of people in the Chew Valley are classed as vulnerable?
I'm afraid I don't know that, the answer.
Yeah, I think that's quite a difficult one. That's quite factual. So, Councillor Harding, did you want to add anything else, or is that adequate?
I can tell you, though, that we have an ageing population in the Chew Valley. I don't know if that is linked to vulnerability, but I don't have those statistics on my desk right now, no.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more factual questions, I'm moving us as a council to ask that these statements be referred to the relevant Cabinet member. And as there is no more business, I would like to close the meeting at 9:20.